Hello, Internet. I'm Insane Lane, and welcome to Tea and Rose's Book Club. We had a week off because everyone was on holidays, so I took one too. It was nice. Of course, I've completely forgotten almost everything that happened in the book. We had a unexpected violent episode. Still cannot believe that came up out of nowhere. It was so intense out of a book that's been so mellow. It's very weird. So we now have multiple love triangles going on. Some are better than others. Still got a lot of characters that I don't know why they're there. We have the mystery of the dead accountant. Still don't know if that was murder or not. We've got the knocked up wife that the guy doesn't want. The father still missing. Nobody's made an attempt to contact him. That's still weird. We've got the sister getting into a bad marriage. And the other brother that's a drunk, not knowing who he's sleeping with, which is still a pretty big stretch. We'll see what becomes of that. And of course, we're still in the middle of the derby party where everybody is drinking mint juleps, which I did not know until after we finished last time that mint juleps have bourbon in them. So I added a bunch of marks for bourbon. I also forgot to rewrite the page that all the marks are on, so it's still a mess, but it'll do for this week and then I'll fix it. But yeah, we're getting close, kind of close to the end of this book. It's got about another 100 or so pages, I think. Yeah, about 120. So really not that much left. But it is one of 3, so I have a feeling the story is spread out between the 3 and they're not so much standalone stories. Because sometimes you have standalone stories within a greater overarching story, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. Because if the main character is supposed to be Lane and his romance, the time's been split really equally between all 3 of the siblings. So I have a feeling that's just how it's going to go. So probably nothing is going to be resolved in this, which is kind of a weird format, but I get it. Other books have done it. Twilight, that's what they did. You know, even though it had kind of one big event for a story, the whole story is spread over. Is it 4 or 5 books? I don't even remember. And then I think they added one more. Now there's a streaming thing being made. Can't wait to see how god awful that is, because you just know it's going to be. There's no way it comes out good. Not ever. There's zero chance. Unless they completely abandon the source material and get actual good writers. You know, or people who know anything about how to write a non-toxic relationship. Is it any wonder that Twilight, what spun off from it, what became of it, became 50 Shades in 365 days? There's a whole human centipede aspect to it, which makes me wonder who's going to read, who has read 365, because they've been out for a couple years now. So who has read 365 and is writing their own version of that? Because you know it's out there, because it's like the tape from The Ring. It will never stop because people just keep copying it. And so there's got to be somewhere there is or is about to be a book series that is started as fanfic of 365. And I know, says the woman that's converting Hannibal fanfic into an actual novel. I've had big progress on that. I finished part 6 after a year. Longest it's ever taken me. By far, 6 months of that was spent on one scene, which I now think I have a handle on. It's highly unpolished, but other than that, I think I got it, and that's what took the majority of the time. But for now, we shall move on, so all rise for our national anthem, please. And then we shall return to our regularly scheduled tale.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh my God, I would love a cup of tea, thank you." you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you can make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware that they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important bit, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you're entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say, no thank you, then don't make them tea. At all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, yes, please, that's kind of you. And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind, and you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they are unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea, and they can't answer the question, do you want tea? Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea, and they said yes, but in the time it took you to boil the kettle or brew the tea and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down, make sure the unconscious person is safe, and this is the important part again, don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they are safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it, going, but you wanted tea last week, or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat, going, but you wanted tea last night. If you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you are able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea.
There we go. That did not want to work. Oh, it's still so bright out, even though it's so late. Ugh, I wish I'd noticed the curtains, but I didn't. Sorry. Well, we are back after taking a week off. I missed everyone. The ducks missed everyone. They got very loud and restless. So, oh, it's so unbearably hot. And it was nice for most of the day today. But now it's up and the mugginess is up, so my face looks red because I'm not wearing foundation, because there was no point in putting on foundation. It would have just melted off and, why waste it? So, let's start by introducing our pantheon of ducks. They're very happy to be here. They did not like being cooped up in their bags for so long. We have Ralph, Charlotte, Steve, gotta fix that, Paddington, Caspian, Inspector Clouseau, Dumbo, Sally, Bill, Xavier, Eloise Pongo, Mitch, Sansu, Bob with 2 B's, Sasha Bartholomew, Alex Chuckles, Melman, Naruto, Jeremy DeWitt, Cinemark, Alan Tudyk, and James, Playboy, Jethro, Gilbert, Vixen, Dennis, Rosie, House, Susie, Wolfie, Russell, Mark Classell, Cicero, Phoebe Halliwell, John Glenn, Lil Chickadoo, Captain Blaze, Ferguson, Amy Doe, Ocean's Gate 7, Dinglehopper, Madison, Leonard, Jack Jacquard, Lulu, Marty, Akasha, Dr. Breadside, Manor, Autolycus, Deja, Insidious, Cleopatra, Extra Crispy, Ralph, Wisp, Dougie, Katy Perry, Calvin, Abraham, Nicola, Dewey, Gretzky, Cosmopolitan, still one of my favorite names, Schwartz, Misty, oh, I know this, Hermione, and Padme. Ha! Didn't have to cheat. Ha! Okay, still working on fixing the broken clip thing, which I forgot to do. Okay, we're just gonna tuck that there and tell it to stay. Because that works, right? works so well with children and dogs. Pup is he's napping in anticipation. I think he's on the couch. Uh, I'm sure he will interrupt us at some point. Yes, I wrote all over this because I was planning to make a new one, and then I completely forgot until 5 minutes ago. So that will get done. So will the burn video that I also forgot about. I have all the pieces. I just haven't put it together yet. I have the music. I have the lines. I have all the stuff. I just didn't finish it, and then I forgot because I was on vacation. And I tried not to think about anything for a week, which was very nice. I have a great new game. If anyone else is playing Moonlight Peaks, let me know. It's wonderful. No, I haven't figured out how to get to the gold yet, but I'm making progress. I'm about halfway through the fall. There is a massive problem with it, though. Fall crops grows forever without ever being harvestable, which is really bad, and it's the money crop. So that's kind of killing my fall profitability. But I'm hoping they'll fix soon. They put out a hot fix for PC, but Switch has like a process where they won't patch anything until they clear it, and it takes like a week or two, which is ridiculous. So if you're playing on Switch, you're going to be waiting for those fixes for a while. They're also working on the lagginess and the load screen time, because the load screen time is huge. And it gets irritating because it's very small areas, so it has a lot of loading screens when you transition areas, which you have to do like at least a dozen times a day, so it's a lot. But for now, let's get on. Oh, wait, I forgot. If you would like to help a girl out and click the PayPal link, it's not a link. Copy paste, or is it a link? I don't remember. Copy paste the PayPal link, and our options to sponsor things are for $10. We have still these ducks that are still in their bag. These are the ones that have never been chosen, so they're not on our pantheon of ducks yet, but they're all waiting their turn. They're all unique and individual and very cool. There's some awesome ones in here. So we have those. Those are our ordinary ducks. We also have our painted ducks that I worked very hard on. We have Rooster Duck, Evil Knievel Duck, Julia Roberts at the Polo Duck, Porygon Duck, Mark Zuckerberg Duck, Christmas Story Duck, and Yoshi Duck. If you would like to sponsor Painted Duck, please specify which one. When you send PayPal, there's a space for notes. For 25, we have these very real handcuffs that have a key in the pouch and a key on a string within reach because we practice safety here. These are my personal favorite, but not so much when it's super, super hot, but still a good option. Or for $50, we have our Skittles drink mix. Yes, we still have these. Pretty sure these are indestructible even in this heat, so they'll keep forever. We have now tried all 4 flavors. The ranking goes orange, green apple, grape, and strawberry in terms of liking. But since we have now tried all 4, unless you specify a flavor, I will draw one at random. If you have a specific flavor you would like to see me indulge in, again, let me know. And we will do, because we still have all 4 flavors. There's like 6 of each, so we got plenty. So that is our top tier option. Now on with the show. I'll remember how to do things, really. 1 week off and my brain forgets how to do everything. Like, I was like, what do I have to open first? How do I have this? Like, oh yeah, the thumbnail. Oh. You think it'd been a year? I'm gonna, yeah, we're gonna take this off because it's hot vellum is not a good thing. All right, much better. Chapter 20, chapter 33. I was gonna say 20. I'm not used to books with this many chapters. Oh, the consistency though is still so nice. That every chapter is roughly 10 pages is great. None of this bullshit of 3 pages, then 55 pages, then 2 pages, then 40. Oh, God. Like, if that isn't a sign of bad writing, I don't know what it is. That and when movies have too many curse words in them, this is largely why I don't like the movie. It's a good chunk of the reason I don't like the movie 7. I know that movie gets such acclaim and people love it, and they look at me like I'm crazy when I say I despise that movie. But I think it's lazy. I think it's horribly, horribly lazy. It's poorly written, and I love David Fincher. Love him. Love so much of his stuff. Don't love that of his. Because again, I thought it was lazy. I thought Brad Pitt was obnoxious. And the fact that half the script is him saying the F word, I didn't have a good way to portray a good idea, because the premise is good. That's a good idea. You could have had some real fun with that, and they did. But the dialogue's terrible. And it lets the other things down when you don't have all the elements. Like it lets it down. As Edward listened to Lane's report on the family finances and then the further news that their mother had been declared incompetent, and finally the details around the Hemlock suicide. Okay, do we know that? Because they keep going back and forth on this. They keep saying she did it herself, but then other people are calling it murder. Like, we don't know. Like, unless I missed something, there has not been a definitive declaration on that. He found himself curiously detached from the whole story. It wasn't that he didn't care. He'd always worried about his siblings, and that kind of regard didn't go away, even after all he'd been through. But the string of bad news seemed like explosions happening far off on the horizon. The flashing and distant roar of something that captured his attention but didn't affect him enough to get him up out of his chair, literally or figuratively. That's great. So I need your help, Lane concluded. Edward brought the bottle of gin to his mouth again. This time, however, he didn't drink. He lowered it back down. With what precisely? I need access to the BBC's financial files, the real ones that haven't been scrubbed for the board or the press. So how long has this company kept 2 sets of books? That's what that means. That means we have the official public accounting. Then we have the real accounting. Yeah, no, we don't know anything official because we have not gotten the results of an autopsy. There's not been an investigation. So, yeah, no, I'm saying we don't know that yet. But did anyone else, who knows MASH? That episode where, one of the episodes where Frank thinks he's dying and he's writing his will and he's telling his children that he's leaving them some kind of account or stocks or something. And he's like, these are recorded in my blue ledger, not the black one I show to the government. I'm like, yeah, that's what that sounds like. I don't work for the company anymore, Lane. Oh, do you know how many companies I have not worked for anymore, but my access still works because they never remove people when they leave? Like, whether you're quit or fired or even just move to, even if you're just moved to a different division. I've had this happen where wherever you worked before, your codes will still work, even though it's a completely different department and it shouldn't, and it will. Because they don't go back and delete stuff like that. They just don't. And it's such a huge security risk. Don't tell me you couldn't get into the servers if you really wanted to. Okay, either he has access or he doesn't. Nobody's a hacker here. And I guarantee you he has access. Also, all of these people are they own this company. They have access to anything they want. It is bullshit. They would have to nefariously acquire anything. They own the fucking company. Wayne had a point. Edward had been the one to set up the computer system. Okay, there we go. There's our excuse for why he'll be able to do this. There was a long silence, and then Edward followed through with another hit of the liquor. There's still plenty of money around. You have your trust, Maxwell has his, and Jin only has a year or two to go. That $53 million loan payment with Prospect Trust is coming due. 2 weeks, Edward. Edward shrugged. It has to be unsecure. Otherwise, Monteverde wouldn't be so worried. So it's not like they're going to come for the house. Monteverde will go to the press. No, he won't. If he makes an unsecured loan of that magnitude using Prospect Trust funds, he'd have to have done it behind the board's back and in violation of federal trust company laws. You don't know that it's unsecured. You don't know that your father didn't put the house up as the collateral. He well could have. They don't know. I'm sure that's the other shoe that's going to drop. They're going to find out that yes, the house is attached to the loan, and so are the trust accounts or whatever, or something like that. But it's like you're a fucking idiot if you think you know anything right now. You haven't seen the paperwork on anything. You don't know the details. Like, you do not make any assumptions. If it's not repaid on schedule, the only thing that will happen publicly is an announcement that Monteverde is taking early retirement to spend some time with his family. Yeah, that is the standard excuse. Though my favorite is still a politician once, I forget why he was actually resigning, but in his public announcement, he announced that he was resigning because his wife had twisted her ankle and needed him at home. It was like, it was fucking bullshit. That might have been one of the Republican, like, caught being gay sex scandals, because that's how a lot of them leave. Edward shook his head. I understand you're wanting to know more, but I'm not sure where you think you think that's going to get you. The debt's not yours to worry about. Well, I think it is. You live in Manhattan now. Why the sudden interest in the people who live at Easterly? They are they're our family, Edward. Like, dude, does it matter? Like, you have a problem. So, Lane frowned. I get that you don't feel like William Baldwin's son after the way he treated you all these years. How could you? But what about the house, the land, the business, mother? The Bradford Bourbon Company has $1 billion in yearly revenue. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, companies and people like this don't just go broke. I don't care how much gambling goes on. Like, it's just like, I'm sorry, if you want me to believe they're actually in financial peril, you have to do better. Even if you go net, not gross on that figure, whether the personal debt is 50 or even 100 million, that is not a catastrophic event considering how much stock the family owns. Bank will loan between 60 to 70% of value against an investment portfolio. You could finance the payback of that amount on your own right now. See, somebody who knows. But what if it isn't all that's been borrowed? And shouldn't father be held accountable? Yeah, can somebody at least try to call him? Please? Because it's annoying the shit out of me that nobody has even tried to contact the father. They got confirmation that he left the estate and I think went to Cleveland, but nobody has tried to call or like even said like, oh, he's staying at this hotel or something. Like, come on. And again, I ask, what about mother? If I went down the rabbit hole of wanting some kind of justice against that sire of ours, I'd be flat out insane. Well, murder's always an option. And the last I heard, mother hasn't been out of her bed except to take a bath in 3 years. Whether she's at Easterly or in a nursing home, she won't notice the difference. As Lane let out a curse, Edward shook his head again. My advice is you follow my lead and distance yourself. I should go even further away, actually. At least you have New York. So his advice is just run away and let things implode. Like, ugh. How are these adults? But make no mistake, Lane, they will eat you alive, especially if you follow this avenging road you're on. He's just trying to figure out what's going on. As he fell silent, he felt a brief moment of surging fear. You're not going to win, Lane. There are things that have been done in the past against people who tried to come forward about certain issues. And some of them were done against family members. Okay, so we've got more like dark secrets. He should know. So did he is that like our notice that what he found out about the father's gambling and embezzlement and was gonna out him, so daddy had him kidnapped and tortured in South America? Like, because I've been thinking his dad I was thinking like the reason he was tortured is because his father didn't have the money to pay the ransom and was covering that up. But now it's like, did daddy arrange that to teach him a lesson or something? Uh, Lane went over to the bay window, staring out as if the drapes were not closed. So you're saying it won't help me? I'm advising you that the path of least resistance is best for your mental health. Physical too. Let it go, Lane. Move past, move on. That which you cannot change must be accepted. He's taking the news that his family could be completely broke really, really well. There was another stretch of quiet, and then Lane looked across the stale air between them. I can't do that, Edward. And it's your funeral. My wife is pregnant. Again? Congratulations. I'm divorcing her. Edward cocked an eyebrow. Not the typical response of an expectant father, especially given how much child support you're going to owe. It's not mine. Ah, that explains it. She tells me it's father's. As their eyes met, Edward went very still. I'm sorry, what? This is shocking to anyone? Pay attention. You heard me. She says she's going to tell Mother, and that she's not leaving Easterly. There was a pause. Of course, if it turns out there are money problems, and I won't have to worry about Father's bastard living in our family's house. Chantal will go elsewhere and find another wealthy idiot to glom onto. Yeah, like, girl, seriously, just move on. As an odd pain shot up Edward's forearm, he glanced at his hand. Interesting. It had somehow locked onto the beefeater bottle with such a strong grip that his knuckles were nearly breaking through his pale skin. Is she lying? He heard himself ask. If she'd named anyone other than father, I would say maybe. But no, I don't think she is. I don't think she's lying either. That was my first thought before she said it. As Samuel T. emerged from the wine cellar and strode off, oh yeah, we walked in on him, like, having bad sex. He found that ignoring the woman he just screwed was an issue of survival. Her voice was enough of an energy suck. If he actually focused on her words, he would probably slip into a coma. Why are they making this guy, who you know is going to end up with the sister, such a fucking misogynistic bastard? Like, I really hate him in a I don't want to see him redeemed level way. Da-da-da. And then we'll go to the club. Everyone's going to be there, and we can. Then again, the exhaustion he was battling probably wasn't her. It was more likely the result of putting down his weapons after a decades-long battle. What he was clear on was that he had to fuck someone in there, on that table. It was his way of wiping the slate clean, metaphorically burning the last memory he had of being inside Jin here in this house, ew, and the other sites he'd been with her at, whether they were at his farm or in hotels internationally or out in Vale or up in Michigan. Okay, so they had like a thing going for a while. It was not a one-time event. He was going to knock them off too, until he'd covered up every single recollection with another woman. Oh my goodness. Dude, like, oh, that is such a frat boy thing to do. And you know there are guys that definitely do that because I've known guys that have like, you know, their favorite spots. It's especially a teenage thing because when you're a teenager you can't go home to do it because parents. So you tend to have a spot. But like, this is a grown up. I should have eaten more. Oh my god, I just realized I forgot to send somebody a message. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. Ugh, I knew I was forgetting something. I always forget something. Like, what the fuck, girl? Yeah, it's because we were off for a week. My brain is still, like, recovering. Ugh. At least I'm only a half hour late. Ugh. Ugh. Oy. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Memorial Day, because we could go out to my parents' estate in the Loire Valley, you know, get away. As the prattling continued, Samuel T. was reminded of why he preferred to sleep with married women. So they have that in common. And when you had sex with someone who had to worry about a husband, there wasn't this expectation of a relationship. The stairs back up to the ground level couldn't arrive in enough of a hurry, and even though he was ready to take them two at a time so he could lose the chatterbox behind him, he was enough of a gentleman to stand aside at the bottom and indicate for her to go first. So they've walked like 10 feet. So he literally cannot stand to be away from this woman that he just randomly fucked. And if they didn't know each other before this, she's a moron to think that random sex in a cellar like means anything, but like, or has he been like seducing her for 2 weeks and now he's had her, he's done with her? Because like some guys are like that. Oh, thank you, she said as she hustled up ahead of him. He was about to follow when he caught a flash of something colorful on the floor. A pair of stilettos, pale, made of satin, Louis Vuittons. He ripped his head around and searched where he and the woman had come from. Samuel T., she said from the top. Are you coming? Why does everyone call him Samuel T. and not just like Samuel or Sam or Sammy? They were Jin's shoes. She was down here. She had come here to watch? Yeah, it was creepy. Well, she certainly hadn't stopped them. His first impulse was to smile and go on the hunt, but that was a reflex born out of the way they'd related for how long? To remind himself of how things had changed, all he had to do was think of that ring on her finger, the man standing beside her, the news that was soon going to go nationwide. Funny he'd never cared about all the other men Jin had been with, whether that came under the eye for an eye exception because he was sleeping with an equal number of other women, or whether he had some kind of kink in him that made him want her more, knowing she'd fucked and sucked other men. Why is this book so vulgar? Or maybe it was something else entirely, he didn't know. One thing was certain. Richard Ford was now a source of tremendous jealousy. In fact, it had taken every ounce of Samuel T.'s self-possession not to give that waste of space a glare that left a hole in the back of his skull. Because God forbid you glare at someone! Oh, right, brand name catch. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, and I have to know. I There's a scene that I wrote that has a pair of Louis Vuittons in it. The stiletto ballet heels that I posted, like weeks and weeks and weeks ago. I am not changing that because it's mentioned in this book. Ugh, I gotta stop not doing things because they appear in terrible books. Like in mine, I'm not just name dropping. There's a whole reason behind the shoes and why they are the way they are, and the fact that they're ballet shoes is like an in joke. Samuel T., is there something wrong? He looked up the stairs. The light coming from behind the woman turned her into nothing but a shadow, reducing her to a faceless set of curves with no greater weight than an apparition. For some reason, he wanted to take Jin's shoes, but he left them behind as he let his ascent answer the lady's question. Emerging on her level, he cleared his throat. I'll meet you there. Her smile dropped. I thought we would go to the track together. The track. Oh, right. It was Derby Day. I have a feeling Derby Day is going to last the rest of this book, by the way. I have some business to take care of. I'll see you there. Where are you going now? The question made him realize that he'd started off towards the kitchen, not the party. Like I said, business. Which box are you in? I'll find you, he called out. Promise? Girl, don't be so desperate. Walking away, he could feel her staring at him, and he was willing to bet that she was praying to Mary Sue, the patron saint of debutantes. Is that a real thing? And he turned her. That he'd turn around and come back over and escort and become the escort that she was hoping would emerge thanks to that subterranean fucking. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. I'm aware there are patron saint of things, but is there really a patron saint of debutantes? Because that does not seem like something the Catholic Church would do. But I know there's like over 400 saints. Well, I don't know. The number changes depending on the Pope. They've done like they've done removals at times because in the 60s they removed like 200 saints for being like unfounded or something. So I don't know what the current number is. But is there really, honest to God, a patron saint of debutantes, or is that like a joke that you get if you're in the South? Samuel T. did not look back, nor did he reconsider his exit, and he didn't pay any attention to the host of chefs in Miss Aurora's kitchen. Okay, rude to be walking through the kitchen. They busy, and it's dangerous. He wasn't actually aware of anything else until he stepped outside. Closing the mudroom's door behind him, he took another breather and leaned back against the hot, white painted panels. Another scorcher of a day, which was not a surprise. Then again, nothing was a shocker in Charlemont when it came to the weather. If you didn't like the conditions, all you had to do was wait 15 minutes. Yeah, we have that in the summer. We definitely have that. So sleep for Derby would also have been possible. God, he was tired. No, he felt old. A throaty growl sounded from over on the left, but it wasn't a sports car. It was an old beater of a truck coming up the service road. Poor bastard, whoever it was. Staff wasn't allowed to park anywhere near the house on a day like today. Whoever was behind the wheel was volunteering for a proverbial throat punch. But he'd had troubles of his own to worry about. Putting his hand in his pocket, he took out his car key, and he stepped off the flat stone and began to head over to where he had tucked his Jag in tight to the house. He didn't make it far. Through the windshield of that old truck, he saw a familiar face. Lane. As the truck stopped by the rear entrance of the business center, he went across. Lane, he called out. You downscaling before Chantal hits us with a response? The driver's window went down, and the guy made a quick slashing finger across his throat. Samuel T. glanced around. There was nobody anywhere. Staff were inside or out working in the tents and the gardens. Guests wouldn't have deigned to come back here where the scrubs might be, and it wasn't like the birds in the trees were going to have an opinion on two humans chatting. When he came up to the truck, he leaned in. You really don't need to do this for your divorce. He fell silent as he focused on the man sitting beside his newest client. Edward, he croaked. How lovely to see you again, Samuel. Except the man didn't look over. His eyes remained fixed on the dashboard ahead of him. You're looking well as usual. As the words were spoken, it was impossible not to take a survey of that face. That body. Okay, can people stop being rude, like, please? Or can we get some idea what is actually wrong with him? Like, we're never going to be told. We're just never going to be told. Dear Lord. The pants were bagging around thighs that were like toothpicks, and the loose jacket hung from shoulders that had all the breadth of a coat hanger. Edward cleared his throat and reached down to pick up a BBC cap off the floorboards. As he put it on his head, he drew the bill down low to cover his face. Samuel T. was ashamed of gawking. It's good to see you, Edward, he blurted. You didn't, Lane said quietly. I'm sorry. You didn't see him. Lane's eyes burned. Or me, do you understand, counselor? Oh, yes, we're trying to be stealth on the estate that we own during the biggest event of the weekend. Hello, Ironton. You made pretty good time. But yeah, seriously, you're in an old ratty truck that's loud in the middle of a big party weekend on your own estate, and you expect to go unnoticed because you're wearing a baseball cap? It's always been one of the dumbest tropes. You know, and it's not even like the Superman glasses thing because that's like based on psychology, so you get away with it. But the baseball hat thing is just dumb. Samuel T. frowned. What the hell is going on? You don't want to know. That's actually true for a lawyer. Samuel T. glanced back and forth between the brothers. As a lawyer, he had been involved in a lot of gray areas, both in terms of avoiding them and getting into them with deliberation. He'd also learned over time that some information was not worth knowing. Understood, he said with an incline of the head. Thank you. Before he stepped away, he forced a smile on his face. Congratulations on the new addition to your family, by the way. Lynn recoiled. I beg your pardon. I'm quite sure You wouldn't have chosen Richard Ford as brother-in-law, but one must adjust when love is in the air. Oh, yeah, because she didn't tell them that she was going to do that. Samuel T. rolled his. What the hell are you talking about? Samuel T. rolled his eyes, thinking that just like Jin. You mean you don't know? Your sister's engaged to Richard Ford. Have a good derby, gentlemen. Perhaps I'll see you both, but of course not both of them. If either of you need me, he amended, you know exactly where to find me. Which would be anywhere their sister was not, he thought as he walked off towards his jag. Okay, why is Edward being treated like a leper? Like, if he was choosing to stay away, that's the end of the chapter. Um, yeah, old beat up truck equals help. Help is always invisible, allegedly. You do have a point there. You did say this was like the staff entrance kind of area. So you do have a point there. There is no officially recognized Catholic patron saint specifically for debutantes. However, two saints are held as highly relevant: Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton and Saint Agnes. I've heard of Saint Agnes because I've been to a few Catholic schools and she is one of the ones they mention. Okay, now later on I'm gonna have to look up what they are patron saints of specifically. Uh, but yeah, I didn't think I think Mary Sue is I don't know if it's a like the thing is calling someone a Mary Sue if you're gay means a certain thing. It basically means like you're and then it has a meaning in movies as well. Okay, I was going like what the fuck is the red dot and it's my it's the dot on my button that is showing through my dress. Okay, thought I had paint on my dress and I was gonna freak out because it doesn't come off this fabric. It's the light. But like calling also in movie terms a Mary Sue is like the newest Star Wars movies, the post-quel whatever the fuck the sequel trilogy, the ones that suck. Um the character of Rey is called a Mary Sue because she basically just gets new powers every time the story needs her to do something. So she can do anything. She doesn't have really an established character. She doesn't have limits, so there are no stakes, so it's boring. Um, she's just the whatever girl that's kind of being a bit of a Mary Sue. Um, the other like if it said Mary Kay, I know that's like a brand of cosmetics, so you'd be like praying to the, basically the god of like cosmetics to make you look good as a debutante. That I would get. Is there a brand of cosmetics called Mary Sue, or does somebody not understand what that means? Saint Elizabeth Ann Seton, known as the patron saint of grief, really? She's also famous for her life as a New York Society debutante. Okay, before transitioning to a life of deep faith poverty. Okay, St. Agnes most often associated with young women and girls. Yep. Namesake Academy. Yes, I've heard of that. Others frequently hold formal debutante-style balls and masses to celebrate young women entering adulthood. Yeah, they do that purity ball crap too. Those are fucking trippy. If you've never been to one, they are a trip and a half. They're they're weird. They're just weird. They're kind of creepy. And yeah, they're very I don't like that's where religion goes too far. But the first one though, the fact that she was a debutante, yeah. I could see her definitely. Definitely, definitely. I don't know, maybe she was afraid to put like a real actual saint because like the Catholic Church is known to bitch. Ah! Ah! Thing falling. Oh no, one of the legs came off. Oh, come on. Oh, Tetris skills, don't fail me now. Okay, if I let go, this is gonna fall over. Oh, come on. Oh, it would help if I noticed that the thing is turned over. Okay, please do not fall over for 1 second. Okay, I have to fix this. Because if it falls, it's going to destroy the ducks. Ah! Squeaky bad noise. Okay. I think that will do for now. Oh, it's way too hot. Ow. And the pen turned the page for me. Nice. Okay, chapter 34. Perfect time for a break in. As Edward got out of the master distiller's truck, he pulled the baseball cap down even lower. And although if that brim were any further south, he wouldn't be able to blink. God, was he really back here? You've been like 5 minutes away. Indeed, he was, and he'd forgotten how enormous Easterly was. Even from the servants' entrances in the rear, the mansion was almost incomprehensibly large. All the white clapboards and black shutters rising up from the green grass, a screaming statement of the family's long-held stature. He wanted to vomit. But after hearing what their father had done with Lane's wife, there was no way he wasn't going to do this. Because he's offended on, like, some kind of... Everybody hates her. Why? This doesn't make any sense. In the background, he could hear the Derby brunch in full swing in the gardens and knew that this really was the only time to get in and out of the business center with the information his brother needed. Again, they should have full access to everything because they own the company. With so many guests on site, there was no way their father would be anywhere but under that tent. Well, he's not there, we've established. He was a reprobate, but his manners had never been assailable. Further, all the corporate staff had Derby Day off, so not even the underlings would be at their desks. The poor bastards might work the 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter, but this was Kentucky. No one worked on Derby Day. That's probably true. Lane came around to follow him. He put out his palm. I go alone. I can't let you do that. This is not... Stop it with this bullshit. Stop. I can afford to get caught. You cannot. Stay here. You're not invading the Death Star. He didn't wait for a response, but continued onward, knowing that after nearly 40 years of being the eldest, his words would freeze Lane where he stood. At the rear entrance to his father's facility, Edward punched in an access code had been assigned to a third-party contractor 5 years ago as part of the security upgrade. When the red light turned green and the lock released, he closed his eyes briefly. See, I told you they never delete access codes, ever. And opened things up. There was a temptation to brace himself before stepping inside, but he didn't have that luxury, either in terms of energy or time. As the door shut behind him, the outdoor light was cut off, and it was a moment before the dim interior registered to his eyes. Still the same. Everything. From the maroon pile rug with its gold edging to the framed articles on the company that hung on the silk-covered walls to the silk-covered walls. That's gonna get nasty. To the pattern of open glass doorways leading down towards the central waiting area. Hello, Deacon. Good to see ya. Hi, Butters. Has he figured out how to break into your smoker yet? Because he sent Bo some pretty detailed plans asking for his help. No alarm went off as he proceeded deeper into the facility. Oh no. Strange that he just assumed because he was different, this place in which he'd spent so many hours would have changed as well. No alarm went off as he proceeded deeper into the facility because of the code he'd used. And he passed the formal dining room, the conference rooms that looked like Easterly's parlors, and even more offices that were kitted out with the luxury of a top-tier law firm. As always, the drapes on all the windows were pulled to ensure total privacy, and nothing was left out on any desks, everything locked up tight. The waiting area was a circular space, the center of which was demarcated with the family crest. I hate when they cut big words in half. Pick a different word. Demarcated with the family crest in the carpet. Okay, that's really flexing your wealth when you have your family crest on the fucking carpet. Prominently placed off to the side. And bracketed by an American flag, a Kentucky Commonwealth flag, and a pair of Bradford Bourbon Company banners. And the desk of the receiving secretary was as regal as a crown. Okay, so statement place. Silk wallpaper, yeah. I've seen, but it just always struck me as like kind of icky. You've been following Akasha's bloodline all day for fun. Oh, I don't see. I remember. See, the thing is, I deliberately didn't watch the Vampire Lestat when it started, even though before moving on to Hannibal, Lestat was my big crush. The only sex dream I ever had was about the Vampire Lestat in the movie Queen of the Damned, the Stuart Townsend one. And so that's what's always been in my head. And so I didn't like the show because of A, the casting. Like I have nothing against them race swapping characters because who cares? Um, but the guy they cast as Lestat just did not fucking look like Lestat is fucking like portrayed to be. And then I heard it was like it's super like in your face with the wokeness, and I hate that. And that it's just loud and obnoxious and flashy. And I'm like, that's just not the world. That this is a bunch of children playing with something they don't understand, and it's garbage. So, and what eye colors mean for vampires? Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, but that is some garbage. Like, nowhere, like, the eye color thing, that's not in Anne Rice books. She doesn't do that fucking shit. Like, I think maybe she says their eyes, like, their pupils get larger or something, but there's no, like, shifting eye colors. Unless it's one of them has, like, a hypnotic power that's said to do that, but it's not out of, like, hunger or anything. It's ridiculously expensive the silk wallpaper. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I knew someone who her mom did like a crafting sewing room. She's like super rich. Um did you know Anne Rice had beef with the founder of Popeye's Chicken? No, I had no idea. Um but a friend of mine had what was silk wallpaper, but it also had like felt, like velveting in this shape. It was gold. It came in literally 1 by 1 squares. You had to buy it 1 square at a time. It was like super thick. It was like a whole big process to install it. Took like a long time. It was really expensive. And it was like gold, like silk wallpaper, and then it had this like felting, flocking shit or whatever, velvet something in the shape of a fleur de lis in the middle of each square. And she did like an entire wall in it, and it was I saw like my friend. I didn't see my friend saw the receipt with the installers and the wall, just the wallpaper, not even having it installed. That was a whole other bill, but just the wallpaper per 1 foot square was $1,000 per square, and she'd covered like a 12 by like 10 wall in it, and you could like pet it because it was fuzzy. It was just insane. And we were both thinking like that's gonna like get dirty, and how do you clean it? Do you vacuum the wall? Do you steam clean it? What? Because like literally it wasn't like a little like fuzzy, it was like this much. It was quite a lot. I mean, it looked cool. It was definitely a statement wall, but it was like kind of design may have gone too far here. Yeah, kind of like shag carpet. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. However it looked, it was weird. Ugh. Uh, and yet that wasn't even close to the seat of power. Beyond all that show, there was a glassed-in office where the executive assistant occupied space. And finally, behind that bulldog's desk was a door marked yet again with the family crest shimmering in gold. Ugh. his father's office. Edward glanced over to the line of French doors that opened up into the garden. Thanks to the combination of heavy drapes and triple-paned glass, there was not even a peep heard of the 600 or 700 people out there, and there was absolutely no chance of any guests wandering in here. Edward shuffled forward to the glass office and entered the same code. When the lock released, he pushed his way in and went around to sit at the computer. He turned no lights on and would not have disturbed the chair behind the desk had his legs been capable of supporting his weight for any length of time. The computer was running, but locked, and he signed on using a set of shadow credentials he'd given himself when he'd had the company's network expanded and reinforced about 3 years ago. So he gave himself a back door. That is true, the room did not echo. That's true. Ugh. I don't even know if her mom could sew. I know she couldn't swim. Hin like Flynn, as they said. But now what? On the trip to Easterly, he'd wondered whether his brain would come back online for any of this, and he'd worried that the painkillers or the trauma had damaged his gray matter in a way that was not material when all one did was drink and sleep up stables, but rather dispositive when one attempted to function on a higher level. Yeah, I would be more worried about the drinking. Deacon, embrace the bad studio ideas. Studios are boring. If you make it a little flashy, it'll be better. Creative people need creative stimuli, so I've always wondered why recording studios are so fucking drab. That was not the case. Although his circumnavigation among the file system of security documents was slow at first, soon enough he was moving quickly through the information caches, exporting what was relevant to a dummy account that would appear to be a valid BBC email, but was in fact out of the network. Yet another shadow. So thankfully he thought to set up a backdoor back email untraceable that could get in to the company's apparently very secure and classified financial records that he can email outside their network without setting off any security that he supposedly was installing while he did this. Uh-huh. I'm sorry, but I'm a techie computer person and this is making my brain fucking hurt because it's a lot of fucking bullshit. You know, it's just a lot of, like, somebody Googled a list of terms and then vomited them all up at the same time. But it doesn't actually work that way. And what was best about it all, if anyone looked into the activity, they would trace the destination to the name of his father's bulldog executive assistant. So he's also setting someone else up? Like, you're kind of a dick. In spite of the fact that she herself knew nothing about the account. But that was the point. Anyone in the company who saw that woman's name on something was going to back away and say nothing. As he sifted through the financials, he focused exclusively on raw data that hadn't yet been scrubbed by accountants. How corrupt is this company? And apparently always has been, and he knew about it. And though there was a temptation to start to analyze, it was more important that he capture as much as he could. The lights in the reception room flared to life. Jerking his head up, he froze. Shit. Okay, so somebody walked in. Is it going to be the father? I'm not a techie person, but even if a question if ChatGPT wrote this, ChatGPT may have wrote that section. Somebody may have just told ChatGPT, write me 4 sentences on how to, nefariously send financial documents from a company to myself without being noticed, and that's what it said. Lizzie's phone went off just as the first of the guests started to take their leave, and she nearly ignored the vibration, especially as two of the waiters came up to her with a series of demands from a table of 20-year-olds who were underage and utterly drunk. Yeah, no shit. No, she said as she took her cell out of her back pocket and accepted the call without looking. They've been cut off for a reason. By their parents. Yeah, their parents who let them fucking get into this state. So, sorry, parents, you're losing points as well. If that bunch of entitled assets has a problem with the service refusal, tell them to talk to mommy and daddy. Yeah, right. They're pretty girls. They'll just walk up to a guy and say, hey, grab me a drink. She put the phone up to her ear. Yes, it's me. Lizzie closed her eyes in relief. Oh my god, Lane, here. Let me find somewhere quiet. Yet not happening. I'm around back by the garages. Can you come out for a minute? Is he calling her for a booty call? I bet he is. On my way. Ending the call, she caught Greta's eye across the tent and signaled that she was stepping out for a minute. After the woman nodded, Lizzie hightailed it down from the periphery of the party, jogging behind the buffet tables where the uniformed servers cut slices off perfectly roasted wedges of locally raised Angus beef. When is beef referred to? When do you carve wedges off of beef? um, like no. A couple of the waiters raised their hands to try to get her attention, but she held them off, knowing Greta would be on it. Entering the house through the door that opened into the kitchen, she ducked her head, trying to look as if she were already on a mission. And she supposed she was. In the far corner by the pantry, there was another door that opened into the mudroom, and after running by all the spring jackets of the help, she emerged outside by the garages. She looked around for Lane's Porsche. Over here, his voice announced. Are they going to do it in the bed of the truck and get caught? Are there a lot of sirens? There's something going on at the Toronto Salsa Fest? Oh, please tell me there's not a shooting. I'm not quite that near Toronto, but I bet if I pulled up CHCH News right now, they'd be on it. They're probably there live, actually, if there's an event. I'm surprised the Toronto Salsa Fest is going this late. Oh, they're probably, I bet it's summer. They probably have a permit till like 10. Because it's still like, as you can see, even though it's 9 o'clock, it's still bright light out. Like we're at the part of the summer now where I live that the sun doesn't go down until like 10:30. And it won't tell you what's happening. Is it a shooting for real? There's just way too much violence in the world sometimes. I hope that's not what's going on, but if that's what's going on, fuck. Turning, she recoiled as she saw him leaning against a truck that was nearly as old as she was. But then she got with the program, jogging across the cobblestones. Now this is my kind of ride, she said as she came up to him. Even as he didn't move a muscle, Lane's eyes traveled all over her. See, I told you he was just calling her because he's horny. As if he were using her presence as a way of grounding himself. Can I hug you? She glanced around, focusing on the windows of the house. Probably better not to. Oh yeah, God forbid anyone see, because everyone around here is so, like... I hope not too, and I thought y'all didn't have pew-pews up there like that. True fact, out of the last probably 10 mass shootings in Canada, and that's spanning several years, over half the shooters were Americans that came up here for that reason. So is the guy responsible for the deadliest attack in all of Canada, which was a van attack. He drove into people. And the night that happened, when I saw it, I had to emergency call someone to verify that they were alive because I recognized immediately where it was, and a friend of mine had sent me a picture 45 minutes before that van attack of her and her three sisters sitting at a table that was hit because the video went out immediately. Sees 3 injured motherfucker. Do they have is the shooter been arrested? Do they have the shooter? That's by the way, for those not Canadian, that is a very high both fatality and injury count, even for a shooting here. That is a really high number. I know that's going to sound ridiculous to some people watching, but for us, that's a really high event. Like this ranks probably top 5. But yeah, a friend of mine had sent me a picture of her and her sister sitting at the table that I saw because the video of the van attack, a security camera caught it and it went out immediately. Like before, like within minutes it was going out. They reeled it back because we don't do that here. It shouldn't have been put out, but it was. And I saw that table, and even though I didn't see my friends or anyone that looked like them, you still call. And she knew about it, and she was like, I just saw it. I saw the video. And she's like, yeah, we were right. We're all fine because they'd moved on. They'd left the restaurant to go to the club. They were out for one of the sisters was getting married. So they were having a sister's bachelor party night. And so they'd moved on from the restaurant to go to the club. They were fine. But she was like, yeah, that's the table we were sitting at like 45 minutes ago, which that's got to mess with your head. Yeah. So what are you doing here with this F-150? Oh, there we go. That's a brand name. Okay, pen. Okay, the family is dying, and I've found another pen. But that's okay. The paper's already ruined. We're already going to fix it, so it's good. Just needs to work a little longer, pen. Just one more night. Then I will worry about it. I think the heat actually popped the pen because it's got ink inside, like bubbled up. So I think the heat has fried my pen. Borrowed it from a friend, trying to keep a low profile. How's the party? Your wife's been giving me the evil eye. Ex-wife, remember? Not until the paperwork's done. Awkward pause. Or no. Are you going to head to the brunch? He shook his head. I'm busy. Awkward pause. Excuse me. Are you all right? She whispered. How is Edward? Can I stay with you tonight? Lizzie shifted her weight back and forth. Aren't you going to the ball? No. Well, then, yes, I'd like that. She crossed her arms and tried not to feel a surging happiness, which seemed inappropriate given everything he was facing. So he's gonna crash at her place. Oh no, Sarah, you didn't derail anything. I don't mind at all. I like knowing what is going on in the world. You have nothing whatsoever to apologize for. Especially when it's something in my own backyard. But I'm worried about you. Me too. He glanced up at his house. Let me ask you something. Anything. It was a while before he spoke again. If I decided to leave here, would you consider coming with me? Yeah, I'm going to need more details before I can answer that. When you say leave here, do you mean this estate? The state? The country? The hemisphere? I need more details. Lizzie thought about joking it out, referencing Robinson Crusoe or maybe the Carnival Cruise Lines. Hey, didn't they go bankrupt? I think they might have. But he wasn't laughing in the slightest. Is it that bad? She whispered. It's worse. You don't know that yet. Here's the thing. He's probably going to be right because story, but he doesn't actually fucking know anything yet, and it's annoying me. And I'm hungry, which is making me bitchy. Oh, I want to make food so bad right now, but it's like one of the cardinal rules on the internet that unless the purpose of the video is eating the food, you don't eat food on live streams. Lizzie didn't bother checking to see if anyone was looking. She stepped in close to him and put her arms around him, and his response was immediate. His larger body curling around her own, holding on. Just once in a romance novel, I'd like the girl to be taller, by the way. Well, he said into her hair, would you leave with me? She thought about her job, her farm, her life, as well as the fact that as of 3 days ago, they hadn't spoken in almost 2 years. Yeah, I would not be putting my faith in this guy yet. Because what he's saying is, we have a lot of problems and I want to run away. Lane, so it's a no? She pulled back, stepped away. Lane, even if you never come back here again, you aren't going to be free of this place. These people, she's right. It's your family, your core. I lived without them perfectly well for 2 years. And Miss Aurora brought you back. You could have. I would have returned for you. Lizzie shook her head. Don't make plans. There's too much up in the air right now. She cleared her throat. And on that note, I better go back. People are starting to leave, and we've got a good 400 still in there. I love you, Lizzie. She closed her eyes, put her hands to her face. Don't say that. I just found out that my father's going to let those murderers have Edward. What? I swear I didn't skip a line. What? She dropped her arms. What are you talking about? Did I because he said present tense. And did I Okay, I just want to double check. I just found out that our father was going to let those murderers have Edward. Okay, so yeah, so what we thought, the father wasn't going to pay. But I guess somebody rescued him or he escaped or something. I don't know. Somehow we'll be told something probably in another book. He refused to pay Edward's ransom when he was kidnapped. Refused. He was going to let my brother die there. In fact, I think he wanted Edward to die. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I think that it's possible the father arranged to have him kidnapped. Lizzie covered her mouth with her hand and closed her eyes. So you did see him. What the? Okay, I'm sorry, but the level of like Frankenstein and Elephant Man going on here is driving me insane. Because this is not set in 1820. If it was, I would shut the fuck up, but it's not. It's set in 2020 fucking 2, where I'm sorry, I don't see everyone reacting to Edward. I don't care how disfigured he is or whatever, but they're treating him like, oh, you should be locked up in a tower like the Hunchback of Notre Dame because nobody can look at him because he's so hideous and whatever. And it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, that attitude is so disgusting and it doesn't belong here. Also, you have not established that there's anything like, because we don't know what's wrong with him or what happened to him. If we knew, then that would help, but we don't know. So stop with this, like, shrinking violet bullshit. I fucking hate it. And, like, or if he was, like, walking around everywhere with, like, a hoodie zoot suit combination, like, covering his face or hiding himself or something because he didn't want to be seen, then I could get it because if it was, like, out of a sympathy thing or a respect thing, but it's not. It's out of, oh my god, he's too hideous to look at, and that's just, shut up with that. Yeah, how is he? When Lane sidestepped that one, she wasn't at all surprised. You know, he said, I've always wondered how Edward's kidnapping happened. Now I know. No, you don't. You know how it ended. But why would anyone do that to their son? Because it's an efficient way to murder a business rival and not have to worry about going to jail for it. You get the killers to take him to the jungle, then refuse to pay the agreed upon price. Coffin for one, please. Oh, and then let us play the grieving, tortured father for sympathy in the press. Win-win. Okay, except you just said all you know is that he didn't want to pay the ransom. You don't know that he actually arranged it yet. Lane, oh my god. So when I ask you about going away, it's not just some romantic fantasy. Yes, it is. He shook his head slowly. I'm wondering if my brother wasn't on to my father. So the great William Baldwin tried to get rid of him. Yep, that's exactly what we said. Jesus, she thought, if this was true, the Bradfords truly did take dysfunctional to whole new levels. Nah, 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 nah. I know families that got way worse. What did Edward find out? She wondered. He won't go into any of it. Lane's eyes narrowed. He is, however, helping me get what I need. Lizzie swallowed a thick through a thick throat. I'm sorry, sentence makes me want to gag. And tried not to picture Lane as the victim of some accident. You're scaring me, she whispered. End of chapter. How is this scaring you? I'm sorry, that's a dumb answer. And how are we viewing him as the victim of an accident? Like, his family's fucked up and his father is probably a psychopath and possibly a murderer. But, like, again, I'm still, like, I guarantee you, the end of the book is somebody is gonna finally, here's what's gonna happen. Somebody is finally gonna try to contact their father. Somebody's gonna get on a plane and go to where they said he was. They're going to track him to some hotel room and they're going to walk in and he's going to be dead, and that's how the book's going to end. Because that's the only explanation I can give for why we are ignoring the existence of the father and nobody is trying to get in touch with him. No authorities have been called. I can kind of understand you want to keep the authorities out of it, especially when it's financial crimes, because you don't know like how bad it is yet or who else might be implicated. And so there's a lot of like, call your lawyer first and make sure your ass is covered. I get that. If that's what they were doing, which they're not at all. At all. But, you know, can somebody investigate? We're taking a stretch break. Oh. They also need someone who actually understands the finances, because they both said they don't. And their accountant's kind of dead, so. There's that little problem. Uh, there we go. You know, it's like really muggy and your clothes are like sticking and just nothing wants to fit. Chapter 35. Sutton blinked as her eyes adjusted to the dim interior of William Baldwin's business center. Oh, of course it's her! Of course it's her! I should have known. Because it's Edward that's in there, so it has to be her, because story law dictates that they are constantly drawn to each other. I'm surprised you're so cavalier about this. William shut them in together and turned off the lights. We're competitors, but that doesn't mean we can't be seen together. Wait, are we saying the father is there? Has he suddenly returned? Oh, night, Ironton. Sleep well. And which Sutton is this? Is this the girl or the owner of the business? Glancing around, she decided that the circular reception area definitely reminded her of the Oval Office. And wasn't that typical of the arrogance of the man? Yes. Only Baldwin would demote such a national icon to a place where he kept people waiting. We get it, he's an egomaniac. Shall we proceed into my office? He said with the smooth smile of one of those men who did Cialis ads on TV. Older, grayer, but still sexy. Okay, so the father apparently has just appeared again? Like, what the? I'm happy to do it here. The papers are in my desk. Fine. As they proceeded towards the glass cage of his executive assistant, Sutton found herself wishing they weren't alone. Then again, for this, they were both going to want privacy. And then they were in William's space. So, like, is he selling the company to her? Or, like, which, dear lord, was kitted up like something out of Buckingham Palace. All kinds of royal purple damask, gold-leafed mirrors and tables, and throne-like chairs, making one wonder how the man accomplished anything in such an over-the-top environment. In other words, it's really tacky. Would you mind if I lit a cigar? He said. Not at all. She glanced back and found that he left the door open, which might have made things a little less creepy had there actually been anyone else around. So, where are the papers? Over at his huge desk, he opened a mahogany humidor and took out what was undoubtedly a Cuban. Yeah, someday I gotta look up, like, why Cuban cigars are, like, all the thing. I mean, they're legal now, so. I would offer you one, but these are not for a lady. Fuck you. Good thing my money doesn't wear a skirt, right? As he glanced at her, she smiled sweetly. Shall we sign the papers? Would you care to go to the track with me? My wife is unwell. He cut the butt of the cigar off, so she will have to stay at home. I would think after 3 of her being in bed, the entire world knows she doesn't attend things anymore. I'm going with my father, but thank you. William's eyes went down her body. Why have you never married, Sutton? 'Cause fuck you? Because I'm in love with your son, she thought. Not that he has ever cared. I'm committed to my work, and it uh, and it is a jealous husband. It's rather an 80s concept, perhaps, but also the truth when it comes to me. We have so much in common, you know. He picked up a heavy crystal lighter and kicked up a flame. We're both responsible for so much. My father's still running the Sutton Distillery Corporation. Of course he is. William leaned into the lick of fire and puffed up. But that's not going to last long. Not with his illness, is it? Okay, is he trying to seduce her or bribe her or what? Sutton stayed quiet. The family was not yet prepared to announce her elevation to chairman and CEO, but Baldwin was not wrong. Her father's Parkinson's had been controlled for the last 3 years. However, the disease was progressing, and very soon the medications and their careful timing to hide the symptoms were going to become an insufficient mask. The sad thing was that her father's mind was sharp as ever. His physical stamina was starting to lag, though, and helming a company like Sutton Distillery was a grueling endurance test on a good day. No comment, William said, as another puff of blue smoke rose above his head. The tobacco's dirty sock stench reached her nose and made her sneeze. God bless you. She ignored the platitude, well aware the bastard had lit up precisely because he knew it would irritate her. So he's like Putin in that way. He was the kind of man who exploited weakness at that kind of level. William, if the papers are here, I'll sign them now. If not, call my office when they're ready. Good girl, that is how you handle somebody like this. The man bent at the waist and opened the long, thin drawer in the middle of the desk. Here. With a toss, the sheaf skated across the blotter, and the fact that it had stopped by a framed picture of little V.E., his wife, seemed apt. That's... what the hell? I believe you will find everything in order. Sutton picked up the packet, reviewing page 1, and went on to the next, and the third, and the... Her head jerked up. I know that's not your hand on my waist. Oh! See, now I'm looking for a letter opener to stab him with. William's voice was close to her ear. Sutton, you and I have so much in common. Okay, fucking get away from me, you creep. Like, does this guy just mac on any woman? Like, why are all the guys... Where are all the men except for the two brothers and one of them is sus? Why is every other guy a rapist? Why? Why is my ear popping? Cause ow. Stepping away, she smiled at him. Yes, you're the exact age of my father. But I'm not in his kind of shape, am I? Ew! Well, that was true. William filled out his suit better than men decades younger. Do you want this done now? She said sharply, or sometime next week with my lawyers. The way he smiled at her made her feel like she had turned him on. But of course, all business, as you stated. What a fucking creep. Ew. Sutton deliberately sat in a chair against the wall and she did not cross her legs. About 10 minutes later, she looked up. I'm prepared to execute this. See, I made the changes you required. He coughed a little into his fist. Pen, or do you insist on using your own? I have that covered, thank you. Dipping into her purse, she then. Okay, so is he selling her the company? Used her thighs as a desktop. There is a desk in the room. And signed her name above the notary public's testament that was already filled in. And I'll be taking a copy with me as I leave, thank you. As you wish. She got to her feet and crossed the carpet. Your turn. William took a Mont Blanc out of the inside of pocket of his pale blue suit jacket and he signed on another page, above another previously executed notary public's attestation. After you, he said, indicating the way out of the room with his arm. The copier is next to the first conference room. I don't use the Xerox machine. What the hell does that mean? Of course you don't, she thought, because like cooking and cleaning, you figure it's a woman's work. He was telling her she has to make her own copies because that's a girl thing. Okay, I'd stab him with the pen. Okay, that is so blatantly sexist, I didn't even get it. I really totally missed that for a second because I was like, what the fuck? Oh, yeah. Sarah, this is hella sus, whatever it is. Oh. As she took the document from him and walked for the doorway, a shiver went down her spine. But then she realized there was another piece to all this, namely a transfer of funds only she could initiate. So there was nothing she had to fear from him at this particular moment. She was just passing by the executive assistant's desk when something caught her eye and made her hesitate. It was something down on the floor, sticking out from under the desk's flank. He's hiding under the desk? The notary issue? Yeah. It's weird. Like I'm trying to think I don't know the answer, but I know there's only certain things you have to get notarized. It was a piece of cloth. No, it was a collar. To a coat sleeve. Something wrong? William asked. Sutton glanced over her shoulder, her heart pounding. We're not alone, she thought with panic. Okay, what is she trying to hide so badly? Like, from his position squeezed into the well of the desk, Edward knew the instant Sutton somehow became aware of his presence. As her voice trailed off, he cursed to himself. What is it? His father asked. She cleared her throat. Feeling a bit faint. Yeah, play into the sexism. He'll believe that. I have brandy in my office. That's not what you need when you're. Fruit juice. I need some fruit juice. Chilled, please. There was a pause. Anything for a lady, although I must confess this is considerably out of the realm of my usual duties. I'm surprised that actually worked. Oh, they're supposed you're right. That is right. That is right. That is right. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. So does it not like legally hold up if it wasn't witnessed? Or I don't know if that's going to be like a plot thing or just bad writing of didn't do their homework variety. Uh I'll stay here and take a seat. As his father came by and then walked off, Edward heard coughing that gradually grew softer, and then he got a boatload of Sutton's voice, hushed but strong as steel. My concealed weapon is pointed at you, and I'm prepared to pull the trigger. Show me your face now. Seriously, she's pulling a gun and prepared to shoot someone over whatever this is. Because keep in mind, this is not her place we're in. We're in William's place, so if she thought like somebody was breaking in, telling him would have been the thing to do. But no, she's willing to aim a gun at someone to hide whatever she's doing. Fainting spell my ass, Edward thought, but at least she'd sent his father off on the little errand first. Edward grunted as he leaned out from his hiding space. Sutton gasped and covered her mouth with the hand that was not on her gun. If I'd known our paths would cross again, Edward said smoothly, I would have brought you your purse. What are you doing here? She hissed as she put her palm-sized gun back into her pastel pink derby suit. She's just putting it in her pocket. Yep, totally. What are you? What did you just sign? She looked up. He's going to come back any moment. The question, of course, is what are you going to do about that? What's wrong with you? Instantly, she snapped to, shooting him with her hand. Shooing him with her hand. Okay, it was like, wait, she shot him? No, shooing. And just as he retucked himself, Sutton said, Oh, thank you, William. That's just what I need. Wincing as his bad legs spasmed, Edward prayed that she kept protecting him. Also wished he'd greeted her with something other than a reminder that they'd had sex the night before for the first time. Although only because he'd assumed she was a prostitute that he'd bought and paid for the sole reason that he needed a woman who looked like her or he couldn't get it up. That's like creepy. That is so creepy. If you are so obsessed with someone that you can't get it up unless it's a copy of them, that's creepy. Like that's not the same as like having a type. That's not the same as just saying like I like tall brunettes. That's not what that is. This is one very specific person that he's been obsessed with for years. Why are guys always stalkers? Ugh. Yes, he can't get it up unless it's with her or somebody that looks enough like her. That's just incredibly, incredibly creepy. It really is. Yeah, we're almost to chapter 36. I only said we were going to read till like 38 tonight, and I don't want to read like half the book one night, so I'm saying right now we may call it an early night. I know I've never done that, but it might happen. I don't mean like now early. I mean like in an hour and a half early. Because I don't want to read like half the book in one night, and I don't want to read like 100 pages in one night, but we'll see. This is a fast read, though. It's definitely going a lot faster than I thought, which actually works out well because we have. I know, said Thale. I know. I hate that I said it. Watch me now, like go to midnight 30 just to spite myself because I'm like that. The gasp. I do love that. I love that you're here. Do whatever you want. Thank you for the encouragement. No, we'll definitely keep going till at least 11, but you know, I may invoke summertime hours. We'll see. Cuz yeah, we're getting through this at a clip. Uh No, orange is best. There was a pop as if a cap had been opened. Mmm, good. Her father coughed again. Better? Rolls for summer hours. Summertime hours. Much. Let's go to the copy machine together, shall we? She said, just in case I need help. Yep, yep, play into the stereotype. It will serve you well. My pleasure, William drawled. You know, Sutton said more dimly, as she led the way out of the office, you shouldn't smoke. That stuff will kill you. Edward closed his eyes. Oh, the lights, Sutton murmured. Here, allow me. Once we get the copies, we should return to the party. So eager to enjoy better bourbon than you produce? Douchebag. As the pair of them went off together, Edward listened to the prattle of their talk and prayed for his father's sake that the man kept his hands off Sutton. Watching that little show by the desk had required a kind of discipline he had not been connected to for quite a while. What exactly are you planning to do about it, guy who can barely stand? What the hell kind of business deal were the pair of them executing? Yeah, that's what I'd be worried about. God, he never thought he'd think like this, but he hoped Sutton wasn't making any investment in the BBC or trying to acquire it. She could well be pouring good money into a black hole. You just said the business makes $1 billion a year. You can't have it both ways. Ugh. Ugh. Oh, obligatory second reminder that we have ducks, handcuffs, and Skittles drink mix available if you would like to help a girl keep the lights on. PayPal link top of the chat. You know what to do. And we still have quite a few painted ducks. I do love the Julia Roberts one because I think it looks really cute. Also, that's like one of my favorite scenes in that. Because I love that he's wearing the tie that she was wearing when she was naked the night before. It's really cute, and I forgot I'm wearing makeup, and I just rubbed half of it off, because duh. Okay, I don't look like I have black eye at all. Oh my god. This is why I can't have nice things. This is why I'm not a lady. Someone doesn't know how math works. Yep. I think Butters doing treat math would do better. Because, yes, even before he started to get into those most recent files, Edward had suspected what his father was doing. Yeah, so he knew about it. He had never understood the why of it, but he did know where to look and exactly what he was going to find. Okay, so you knew, and then your father had you kidnapped and tortured, and you didn't tell anyone, even when you got home, that he was bankrupting the company and committing financial crimes. And you did nothing to put a stop to it. Like, nobody is a good person in this. Moments later, he heard Sutton say, well, I think this benefits us both. Wait, I'll execute the wire transfer first thing on Monday morning. Oh, so he's going to find a way to, like, tell her or, like, stop her or something because they have, like, it's Saturday and they have till Monday. Care to seal this with a kiss? Ew! In what world would a business partner ever say, ew, 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 ew? Edward curled up a fist and thought of what his brother had said about Chantal. Thank you, but a handshake is more than sufficient, and even that I don't require. Good girl. I'll let myself out. A door opened and closed, and then his father came back, the heavy football striding in Edward's direction, making him wish he'd brought his own gun. Could he fire a gun? We don't know this. Lane knew where he was, however. If he didn't make it out of here alive, Lane would know. So we're thinking his father's actually going to kill him. Like, that's a whole other level. Closer, closer. Except his father just walked right by the desk and into his own office, where he turned on light, pulled open a drawer, and put the papers that had been signed back inside. Then he closed things up and took a number of puffs on his cigar as if he were lost in thought. When a coughing fit ensued, Edward rolled his eyes. His father had been an asthmatic all his life, and he's not dead from smoking cigars yet. Why, anyone with that condition, even if it was just a mild case as William had, would ever smoke anything was a mystery. As the man took out a handkerchief to cover his mouth, he also retrieved his inhaler and briefly replaced the cigar butt with the drugs. After a quick huff, he put the cigar back in place, turned off the light, and proceeded by his assistant's desk. Edward didn't move, continued to hold his breath, waited for the sound of one of the French doors opening and closing. None of that came. End of chapter. I think we're having some short chapters. So he's just standing there by the desk. So are we going to get the, I know you're under there, why don't you come out? Like, it's going to happen. Ugh, like that parent radar when you walk in the room and you just know that there's a tiny child hidden somewhere in the room. Oh. I swear, if I'm getting an ear infection, I'm going to go insane. Ugh, I've been having sinus problems for months now. I think it's like making my ear pop. Chapter 36. As Lizzie stood before him looking shaken, Lane wanted to take it all back. He wanted to return to the time when it was only his family's wealth and social position, along with his lying, baby-killing, adulterous soon-to-be ex-wife, who came between them. Yeah, that's the good old days when you were just a douchebag. Ah, well, the good old days. Not. I'm sorry, he whispered, and that was true about so damned much. That's all right. Not really. When they fell silent, he found the sound of the party annoyed the crap out of him, especially as he thought about all that money that his father had borrowed. He had no idea exactly what the costs of the brunch were, but he could do the math. 600 or 700 people, top shelf liquor, even if they got it wholesale. Food that was out of a Michelin 3-star restaurant, with enough parkers and waiters to take care of the entire city of Charlemont. A quarter of a million at least. And that didn't include the boxes at the track, the tables at the private rooms at Steeple Hill Downs, the ball that his family sponsored afterwards. It was $1 million event that lasted less than 24 hours. Listen, you better go. He didn't want her to see Edward, mostly because he was guessing Edward wouldn't want to be seen. See, that's a fair reason. That's an actual nice reason. I'll come to your place, even if I can't spend the whole night. I'd like that. I'm worried about you. A lot going on. Person that's been back with him for a day and a half. You have no idea, he thought. He leaned in to kiss her, but she ducked away, which was probably the right thing to do. A couple of groundsmen in a golf cart were coming up the lane from the lower part of the estate, and no one needed to see that. I'll get there when I can, he said. Then he leaned in. Know that I'm kissing you right now, even if it's only in my mind. See, that's a line that definitely can be sweet. She blushed. I'll see you tonight. I'll leave the door unlocked if you go late. I love you. As she turned away, he didn't like the look on her face, and it was impossible to hide the fact that he desperately wanted her to say those words back. Not because she was being polite, but because she meant them. Because her heart was on the line, just as his was. This is a lot of emotional investment very, very quickly. With his world so off balance, Lizzie King certainly seemed like the only secure, steady thing on the horizon. The sound of the door opening behind him ripped his head around. Not Edward. Not even close. His father, not his brother, came out of the rear door of the business center, and Lane froze. The first thing he did was look at the man's hands, and he expected to find blood there. But no, in fact the only thing in them, or in one of them rather, was a white handkerchief that he pressed to his mouth as if he were discreetly covering a cough. His father did not look over, but didn't appear stressed. Preoccupied, yes. Stressed, no. But the bastard walked right by the back end of the old truck, and the lack of social position associated with such a vehicle putting the F-150 and whatever owner or passenger might be standing with it beneath his radar. Okay, so he's like constantly rude. I know what you did. Lane wasn't aware of speaking until the words came out of his mouth, and his father stopped and turned around immediately. As one of the garage doors began to trundle up in the background, William's eyes narrowed, and he tucked the handkerchief inside his jacket. I beg your pardon, the man said. Lane crossed the distance between them and met his father eye to eye. Keeping his voice low, he said, You heard me. I know exactly what you did. No, you don't. You know the fallout, but you don't know what he did. It was eerie how much that face looked so like his own. Also eerie that nothing in it moved. William's expression didn't change in the slightest. You'll have to be more specific, son. The cold tone suggested the last word could have been replaced by waste of my time, or perhaps the more colloquial asshole. Lane gritted his teeth. He wanted to lay it all out, but the reality that his mother was still in that business center, or at least hopefully remained in there alive, coupled with the fact that his father would just redouble the efforts to cover his tracks, stopped him. Hold on, I want to see what page count we're at, because I didn't look. And I forgot I got lipstick on the book. Oh, come on. Yeah, we are ahead of time. I'm not seeing things. Ugh. 20, yeah, okay. Lane gritted his teeth. He wanted to lay it out. Yeah. Chantal told me, Lane whispered. Oh, okay, so he's trying to confront him just about the you fucked my wife thing? William rolled his eyes. About what? Her demand that her rooms be redecorated for the third time? Or is it that trip to New York she wanted to take? Again. She's your wife. If she wants these things, she needs to discuss them with you. Lane narrowed his stare, tracing every one of those features. Now, if you'll excuse me, Lane, I'm going to. You don't know, do you? About the baby? Of course not. Why do these types of authors keep making these types of books again and again? I remind you, this author has successfully published more than, I think, almost 40 books over like 30 years. So she's made a hell of a good career out of it. And that's why. Like, one thing, like, romance authors are is prolific. I think after the E.L. James book, because we're gonna finish these, then we'll do the E.L. James book because it'll be out by then. Then I think we're gonna do some Amanda Quick. And I got to decide what out of that because I own like 20 of her books. So I'm gonna pick a couple, unless something else like presents itself between now and then. But that's like in general the plan. I'm not about reading one of the Amish romance books they have, but they're so bad, and they're not. They're just like they're not even like entertaining bad. They're just bad. You don't know, do you? His father indicated an elegant hand to the Rolls Royce being pulled out of the garage. I'm going to be late, and I don't play guessing games. Good day. She's pregnant. As his father frowned, Lane made sure he had enunciated his words clearly. Chantal is pregnant, and she says it's yours. He waited for the tell, waited for the single pinpoint of weakness to show, used all his experience in poker to read the man in front of him. And suddenly there it was, the admission spoken in the subtle twitching under the left eye. Okay. I'm divorcing her, Lane said softly, so she's all yours if you want her. But that bastard child is not living under my mother's roof. Do you understand? You will not disrespect mother like that. I will not have it. You're talking to someone that you know is having like a 30-year affair with the now dead, possibly murdered accountant. Like, you're in a whole other territory of disrespect. William coughed a couple of times. Okay, what is with the coughing? Are we going to find out he has TB or like lung cancer or something? Is he dying? And re-outed the handkerchief. A piece of advice for you, son. Women like Chantal are as truthful as they are faithful, and I've never been with your wife. For God's sakes. Okay, who do we believe? Women like her aren't the only ones who lie. Ah, yes, a double entendre. The conversational harbor for the passive aggressive. What? That's not a double entendre. Fuck it, Lane thought. Fine, I know about your affair with Rosalinda too, and I'm very sure she killed herself because of you. Considering you've refused to speak to the police, I'm assuming you know that fact as well, and are waiting for your attorneys to tell you what to say. Well, if she did kill herself, it doesn't matter if it was because of the relationship with him. He didn't kill her, he's not. The flush of rage that rose up from the French collar of his father's pressed and monogrammed shirt was a red stain that turned his skin ruddy as a tarp. You better realign your thinking, boy. And I know what you did to Edward. At that point, his voice cracked. I know you refused to pay the ransom, and I'm pretty sure you had him kidnapped. Steering away from anything further about the financial issues, Lane continued. You always hated him. I know why. But you always went. I don't know why, but you always went after him. I'm only guessing you finally got bored with toying with him and decided to end the game on your own terms once and for all. Funny, over the years he'd often pictured himself controlling his father, had played out all kinds of different scenarios, tried on all sorts of righteous speeches and violent yelling. The reality was so much more quiet than he would have imagined, and so much more devastating. The Rolls Royce came to a stop beside them. The family's uniformed chauffeur got out. Sir. William coughed into that handkerchief, his gold signet ring gleaming in the sunlight. Good day, son. I hope you enjoy your fiction. It's easier to contend with than reality. For the weak. Okay, so we don't know, like, who's telling the truth. She's lied about pregnancy-related things before, so it's possible she's not even pregnant. Or that it's somebody else's. You know, there's no shortage of men around. Lane grabbed the man's arm and yanked him around. You're a bastard. No, William said with boredom. I know who both my parents were. A rather important detail in one's life. It can be so dispositive, don't you agree? Okay, are we going to find out? Is that the tip of the hat? Are we going to find out Edward isn't his, and that's why he always hated him? I think we like maybe hinted at that before. I don't remember, but are we going to find that out? Because it's so stereotypical. As William ripped out of the hold and walked towards the car, the chauffeur opened the suicide door to the back seat and the man slid in. The drop head was off a moment later, and that handsome profile of its passenger remaining forward and composed as if nothing happened. I'm also adding like 3 to brand names and cars because Rolls Royce got mentioned a whole bunch of times. Ugh. I'm definitely getting sick. I can feel it. Like, this is all like stuffy and painful right now, and it's getting worse as it's getting darker. Oh, I haven't had a sinus infection in years, but you remember, I'm blaming the screwy weather. And the fact that I'm allergic to everything that blooms in the summer. Just everything. In summer, I'm allergic to outside. Oh, you know what it motherfucking is. They cut the grass on. Fuck! How did I forget that? I'm like the most allergic to fresh cut grass, and they cut the grass on Friday. I heard it, but I was sleeping and I didn't pay attention. That's why I feel like crap. That's why I can't breathe right now. That's why there's stuff going down my throat that's making me choke on shit. Fuck! Fuck! I need my phone to like telepathically remind me cut grass, take allergy meds, idiot. Oh, because I always have to take allergy meds for like 2 days after I'm around cut grass because it hits me so fucking hard. Like when I was a kid, no joke, when my grandfather was gonna cut the grass, he would tell my mom, and my mom would literally take me to the mall for like 6 hours. And he couldn't just like cut it and then like let the wind like go it away. He had one of those like suck up the cut off grass thing, and it all had to be like cleared up before I could be brought home. It was like a whole big deal because like being inside with the windows closed just wasn't enough. That's why, because like I can feel everything like right here. And it's so painful right now. Like ick. Ugh. That's why I want to go sit in the shower with my steam on. I'm definitely doing that. Once we hit page count, I'm definitely doing that. We've got like 15-ish more pages. I do not want to get sick for like 2 weeks, which is what happens if I don't take care of this. Composed as if nothing had happened. But Lane knew better. His father clearly hadn't been aware that Chantal was pregnant, and the man was very, very definitely in the running to be responsible. If she even is, we don't know. Craziest gardening thing I learned is the smell of cut grass is the grass screaming. I'm sorry. Did what's the idiot's name? Did the the Scientology guy, Eli no, Ellie who the fuck founded Scientology? That motherfucking idiot. The guy who said he could hear tomatoes screaming. Did that guy tell you that? L. Ron Hubbard. Thank you, Brain. That's his name. Likely in first place. Dear Lord. Lane returned to Mac's truck and resumed his casual, I'm not waiting for anything, waiting. Under more normal circumstances, he would probably have been ranting about the fact that his wife and his father had consummated some kind of relationship. But he didn't even care. Focused on that still closed door of the business center, he just prayed his brother was okay and wondered how long he needed to wait before he broke in. You don't have the code. You know, you really, when you're breaking into places with codes, the guy waiting for you to make sure you're safe should really have the code in case they need to come rescue you. For some reason, he heard Beatrix Molly's voice in the back of his head. Do we know who that is? From the day before, when the woman had been loitering outside Rosalinda's office. It comes in three. Death always comes in three. Some hospitals swear that that's true, or people who work at hospitals like swear that that's true, or nursing homes. Or people say like with celebrity deaths. If that were true, he prayed his brother wasn't the number two. But sure as hell, he had some recommendations for the universe on who should be. Edward's body was screaming by the time he heard, off in the distance, the rear exit door open and close. In spite of the pain, he waited another 10 minutes just to make sure the business center was empty. Because what's going to happen if he gets caught there? He has every right to be there. And who's going to care? Musicians swear it's true. That and musicians dying at musicians and actors dying at 27. The age of 27, because there's like a lengthy list of musicians and actors that died at 27. Yeah, like I know River Phoenix is on that list. Uh, when there were no further sounds, he gingerly shifted his feet out from under the desk and bit his lower lip as he tried to straighten his legs, move his arms, and get himself unkinked. He made it far enough to have to shove the office chair out of the way. Thank God the thing was on rollers. But that was it. He tried to stand up, over and over again, with all manner of grunting and swearing. He attempted every conceivable strategy of transitioning back to the vertical, whether it was gripping the top of the desk and pulling, sitting back on his hands and pushing, or even crawling like a child. He made little to no progress. It was like being stuck at the bottom of a 30-foot well. And to top it off, he had no cell phone in his pocket. Well, that's just poor planning. Further curse words ricocheted through his head, the F bombs landing and making craters in his thought patterns. But following that period of airstrikes, he was able to think more clearly. Stretching over as best he could, he grabbed a hold of the phone wire that ran from the wall up through the hole in the bottom of the desk. Good plan, except the trajectory was wrong. When he pulled it, he was only going to move the headset further out of reach. I assume he's going to call his brother and be like, I'm stuck, come help me. Ugh. Seriously considering getting one of those neti pot things, but they killed somebody recently here. So, and I've always been sus of them. He had to call Lane, not just because he wasn't going to be able to make it to the exit. If he didn't reach his brother soon, the man was liable to get impatient, break down the damn door, and blow their cover. I don't think you're breaking down the door to this kind of place. Doors that require a code are generally, pretty substantial. Bracing himself, Edward rocked forward once, twice. On three, he heaved his torso up, drawing on some reserve of strength he didn't know he had. It was ugly. His bones literally rather rattled together under his skin, hitting one another hard without any buffering of muscle. Is this even possible? But he did manage to snag the receiver from its cradle and drag the rest of the phone forward on the desk until it fell off the edge and landed in his lap. His hands were shaking so badly he had to dial a couple of times because he kept messing up the sequence, and he was near to blacking out when he finally put the headset up to his ear. Okay, are we ever going to find out what is wrong with him that would cause all of this? Because in my head, I'm trying to match up, like, what kind of injury would cause this, and I'm not getting very far. His hands were shaking. Lane answered on the first ring, bless his heart. Hello, the guy said. You need to come and get... Edward, are you okay? Where are... Shut up and listen to me. He gave his brother the code and made Lane repeat it. I'm behind the desk in Father's assistant's office. He hung up by slapping the receiver around its base until it found home. Then he closed his eyes and sagged against the drawers. Funny, he'd been laboring under the misconception that sweeping out the barn aisles regularly meant his stamina and mobility had improved. Not the case. Then again, his pretzel under the desk routine might have been a challenge for anyone. For a grown adult, yeah, there's not as much space under most desks as you think. As he heard the rear door open and shut for a second time, he had a sudden urge to retry the whole get to his feet thing, just so that he and Lane could be spared the embarrassment that was about to come. But the flesh was unwilling, even as his ego got up on its high horse. A moment later, he cut Lane off before the man spoke even a syllable. I got it, he said roughly. I got what we need. He had to salvage his pride somehow. Lane's knees cracked as he crouched down. Edward, what happened? In theory, probably not, because did we ever figure out why that lady was fainting in 365? She had a heart condition! What heart condition we never fucking found out, and the symptoms made no goddamn sense, nor did the thing that supposedly cured it. None of that bullshit made any fucking sense. It's like, really, bitch, you couldn't fucking just Google, like, symptoms of an adult with a heart murmur, because I'm pretty sure that can cause you to faint, and just go with that. You couldn't have just picked one thing. You had to do, like, literally 90 seconds worth of fucking research, and you could have made sense. Like, that's what I mean about lazy ass fucking writing. Because it is just being lazy. You have the internet. The information is there. Like, do you know the shit I fucking looked up? That is stuck in my head now, so I wouldn't sound stupid when talking about something I didn't know anything about. I'm gonna pull up my list. I'm up to 182 things that I have researched for my novel, which is about 2/3 of the way finished. Oh god. Oh god, I was gonna read it, but now I'm probably not. Because it's all stuff that definitely. Sorry for spitting. It's all stuff that definitely puts me on watch lists for things. Google was getting sus the other day, by the way. Google started like asking questions while I was asking for stuff, and it was really funny. Oh, but yeah, no, there's the things on the list are pretty even for me. Because I don't know what, like, I don't give a flying fuck, but I don't know what other people's levels of sensitivity to things are. Which one what? Which one what? Deacon, you're gonna have to be more specific than that. Grab Butters and use his tail to try again. Is he okay when you touch his tail, or is he like one of those, like, I will kill you, let go of my tail? I had that when I was taking a class for criminal justice. Which disease? Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. Nope, we're never gonna know because the author didn't think that far ahead or care to put effort into the story. Because why would you do that? Why would you make sure you know what we're talking about? You know, for a flashback scene, I had to fucking Google what did the London Met Police uniforms look like in the early 2000s. And I thought I remembered this because I have newsreels in my head. I thought I remembered that they used to be all black, and it was after 9/11 they updated them because also they'd been that way. They'd looked the same for like 200 years. So they kind of used 9/11 as a good reason to update them and like, you know, add some more equipment because like cops didn't even in the UK, all cops didn't even have fucking radios. And certainly they were completely unarmed. They didn't even have batons. That was their response to 9/11. Certain officers, especially those on the subway platforms, were issued batons. That was their initial response to 9/11, and I love how British that is. He doesn't care for the touching of the tail. Yeah, Bo's like that too. He immediately, if I touch his tail, he like turns his butt away from me and tucks the tail between his legs and like, don't touch my tail, it's my tail, don't touch my tail. Even though like any other time he's not aware that he has a tail. Because he'll be sitting next to something and his tail's like thumping off of the wall or something and he just has no clue. And I'm like, puppy, where do you think that noise is coming from? Do you know that you're the source of the noise? Probably not. I don't think he does. But I'm also like, can't you feel that? Because the tail is not hitting it gently. The tail is hitting it with a whack, 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 whack. It's like, are you aware of that? But if somebody asks me nicely, I will read the sussy things that I was forced to Google for a scene. You know what? I'm gonna put it on because I know you're still watching. Sethale, I'm gonna put it on you. I'm gonna put it on you. Our dragon lord. If your dragons wish to know, I will say. But only for that reason. It's like a reverse dragon riddle, because there's all those old stories where the dragons like they're like the guardians of great treasure, but you have to answer their riddle. Those are cool stories. Why am I on the wrong page? Uh, Edward, what happened? Spare me, just get me up into that chair. I need to log out or we'll be compromised. Where is father gone? I know he left out the back. He got in his car with the driver and I watched him leave. He's off to the track. Thank God. Now get me up. Is he betting at the track? Because I'm worried. More ugliness, with Lane grabbing him under the armpits as if he were a corpse and dragging him up off the imperial purple carpet. This place must be so ugly. When he was finally seated, a sudden drop in blood pressure made him lightheaded, but he shook that off and turned to the monitor again. Go to his desk, he ordered Lane. Top drawer in the middle. There's a sheaf of papers in there. Don't bother reading them. Run to the Xerox machine and get us a copy. He just signed them. When Lane only stood there as if he was wondering whether he had a medical emergency to deal with first, Edward slashed his hand through the air. Go, and put them back exactly where they were. Go. So the dad didn't lock his office or the desk? Because usually the middle drawer in the desk is the one that's lockable. Yeah, I know. It's usually the Sphinx that does riddles. Yeah. And trolls. Trolls are also known for their riddles. That's why in Super Mario Odyssey there is a Sphinx that does do the riddle. You meet him in the Desert Kingdom at first, but then he goes on vacation and he flies around to the other dome, so you'll just randomly find him. It's really cute. That game is amazing. That is definitely one of the best games ever made, but certainly tops of the Mario games. And the first Galaxy. The second Galaxy is garbage, don't buy it. But the first Galaxy game is really good. Odyssey beats it though. And of course, the best Mario game and one of the best games of all time is Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Even if you are not a Mario fan, play the shit out of that game. It's so good. Like, it's one of those games I will play once a year just because it is so good. But you have to make sure that between chapters you really do go around and talk to everyone because there's so much dialogue and there's so much dialogue that will make you go, and this was written for children, right? Because some of it wasn't. Some of it is those kind of jokes you don't understand until you're older. Like that one scene in Jenny's dorm in Forrest Gump. Or genuinely, I didn't know what had happened for a really, really long time. Because I was like 12 when I watched that and it didn't click. Even though I clearly knew about like all the stuff, it did not click. When Lane finally got his ass in gear, Edward refocused on the computer screen. After transferring one final document, he began signing out of the network carefully, closing everything that he had opened. Lane hightailed it back no more than a second after he was finally finished. Get me out of here, Edward said roughly, but set the phone back up here first. It was the height of importance that he required his strong the height of impotence that he required his strong, able-bodied younger brother to put things back in order and then heft him to his feet and shuffle him out of the office like he was a geriatric. If this guy is this also, if he's like this, like physically weak and unable to like reliably walk, why is he not in a wheelchair for now? At least part of the time. Like that would help him get around a lot better and be in less pain. Like, or are we gonna find out that like he got told to use one, but it's like an ego vanity thing bullshit? Is it gonna be more of that? Okay, my ear keeps popping. It's really annoying. It's also really painful. I swear to God, if I'm getting an ear infection, I'm just gonna like stab my the fucking file opener or something. Cramped, awkward position held at length. Yeah, exactly. That's gonna fuck you up. That would fuck me up. I have like mobility issues, so yeah, I couldn't do that. I'd be a wreck after 10 minutes of kneeling on a floor, hiding under a desk. Oh, everyone will take care. Thank you, Deacon. Hopefully, I feel better next week. And we should figure this out sooner. But sleep well. Love on the butters. Uh, and what do you know, Lane gave up trying to help him walk just as they came across the family crest in the carpet. I'm going to have to pick you up. Whatever you must. Edward turned his face away from his brother's shoulder as his weight was popped off the floor. The ride was a rough one, his pain level ramping up and shifting to all kinds of new places. They made better progress, however. It is not easy for one grown person to be like that's not how would you it would be so hard to lift somebody like that. Takes a while for my knee to work it out when it's held in one position for too long. Yeah. My hips are like that. They can get locked up and then don't want to move my legs. What was the paperwork for? Edward demanded as they moved fast down the hall of conference rooms and offices. You're going to have to walk once we get outside. I know. What was the paperwork about? Lane just shook his head as they came to the back door. I need to put you down. I know. There was a grunt of pain. The grunt of pain was nothing he could hold in as much as he would have preferred to, and he had to wait to be sure his legs accepted his weight. His hand biting into Lane's forearm as he used his brother's steady body to help stabilize himself. You okay? Lane asked. Are you good to get over to the truck? As if he had a choice. Edward nodded and pulled the baseball hat down lower over his face. Check outside first. I'm imagining this like in a movie or TV show how goofy and silly this would look. Uh Lane popped the door out and leaned out. Okay, I'm taking your arm. How chivalrous. God damn him, but Edward got his legs moving forward towards that truck like the business center was on fire and that old F-150 was the only shelter he had. No matter how much it hurt, he just gritted his teeth and made it happen. When he was finally stuffed into the passenger seat with the door closed, his stomach rolled so badly he had to close his eyes and breathe through his mouth. Lane jumped in beside him and cranked the engine. There was a grind of protest from under the hood as things were put in gear, and then when there was no forward motion, Edward glanced across. What? In slow motion, his brother's head turned towards him, a strange reserve hitting Lane's too handsome face. What's wrong? Edward demanded. Why aren't you driving us out of here? Releasing his seatbelt, Lane said, Here, read this. I'll be right back. Is he gonna go chase after Lizzie? As the documents fluttered over Edward's legs, he barked, Where the hell are you going? Lane pointed at the papers and got out. Read. Then the driver's side door was slammed in his face. Edward wanted to throw something. What in God's green earth was Lane thinking? They had just broken into their father's. For some reason, he glanced down at what was on his lap. He saw the words mortgage and instrument. What? Not what I was expecting. He muttered, gathering the pages up and putting them in order. When he was finished reading them, he closed his eyes and let his head fall back. In exchange for good and for the in exchange for the good and fair consideration of 10 million US dollars to to Mrs. Virginia Elizabeth Bradford Baldwin. Wait. Wait, this is broken up. In exchange for the fair and consideration of 10 million US dollars to Mrs. Virginia Elizabeth Bradford Baldwin, Sutton Smythe has an income stream of $60,000 a month until the full sum is repaid to her. So it's just a personal loan, but it's in the wife's name? Is that supposed to be like a lifeboat for the wife? So wait, it's saying that. So he's borrowing $10 million personally from Sutton Smythe, and it's supposed to be repaid at $60,000 a month. But the kicker, of course, was the default clause. If the monthly interest wasn't paid on time, Sutton could could foreclose on the entire Easterly estate. See, now that's just too much. Because an estate like that's going to be worth way, way more than $10 million. Like an estate like that's going to be worth like $110 million at least. Like hell, it's got an entire business center. It's got a huge like 200-year-old mansion. It has horse stables and a track. Like it's massive. And like even just the house by itself, not even the land or anything else, just the physical house would easily be worth like $35 to $45 million at least. So that is like way too much collateral for $10 million. Because the wife is incompetent, the husband has power of attorney. So taking, I don't know, is there illegality in taking out a loan in someone else's name if they're incompetent, even if you are the person who has power of attorney and guardianship? Because that seems like it's like a loophole that could be really abused. Because like you could take out a ton of money in somebody else's name, and then you're not responsible for it, and they are, but you like spent it all. Like that seems like a recipe for corruption. Not saying it's not possible. I'm not saying like there's anything in the law that would stop this, but it just seems like a pretty potentially bad situation. Did I just hear a kitty? I wish. I have not given up on my plans to get a kitty, by the way. They just hit a snag. But I would still definitely like to have a kitty again very soon because I miss having a kitty. Oh, that also reminds me that still have not received the litter box that never came from Walmart. That's still ongoing. I still do not have my money back and it never arrived. Though on their fucking website, it's still, the tracking's still listed as being in transit. And I'm like, it's been like 4 months. Give me my damn money back already. I'm still arguing with them. They're bastards. And for like a fucking Walmart that's like a $500 billion corporation, for them to be such petty ass little bitches over like, you know, a refund for something that never arrived, it's really disgusting. Everything from the mansion to the outbuildings to the farmland would be hers. That's a hell of a deal for $10 million. And I'm double checking and it says 10 million, not 100 million even, which would still not be enough for something like that. But like, oh hell. Not a bad risk profile considering the last valuation about 4 years ago. The place had been thought to have been worth about $40 million. Yeah, just the house would be worth that. Like, Edward cracked his lids again and rifled to the signature page. It had been previously notarized, regular practice at the BBC. Is that even allowed? On the QT. Okay, so this is a corrupt thing that they do. They get like pre-notarized paperwork and then use it later. But does that invalidate it though? Does that make it not legal because it wasn't done properly? And William Baldwin had signed on the line that was marked Virginia Elizabeth Bradford Baldwin with his own John Hancock in 3 letters. POA, power of attorney. Sarah, you called it. You get a gold star. So even though his mother's name was the only one on the deed, and she no doubt had no knowledge of the agreement and wasn't going to see a penny of the money, everything is nice and legal. This probably actually is, as disgusting as it is. Damn it. When the door on his side of the truck opened, he cursed and shot a glare at Lane. Except his brother wasn't the only one who'd done the duty with the handle. What? No, Lane was standing off to the side under a magnolia tree. Miss Aurora had lost weight. Wait, did I miss a page? I did not miss a page. Miss Aurora had lost weight, Edward thought numbly. Her face was the same, but far leaner than he remembered. Then again, that was true for the both of them. He couldn't meet those eyes of hers. Just couldn't. He did look at her hands, though. Her beautiful dark hands, which trembled as they reached for his face. Closing his lids, his heart thundered as the contact was made, and he prepared himself for her to make some comment about how horrible he looked. or even say something in the tone of voice that told him exactly how mortified she was at what he had become. Okay, seriously, this is being played up so bad. Is he gonna die in these books? Because everyone's talking like he's in the middle of dying from radiation poisoning. Where's my pen? Uh, she even took off the baseball cap. He waited, bracing himself. Jesus has brought you home, she said hoarsely as she cradled his face and kissed him on the cheek. Precious boy, he's returned you to us. Okay, how long was he gone and how long has he been back? Because, like, I thought he'd been back for like a year, but other people are acting like it was last week. And we know he was in the hospital for months, they said. So did he just go directly to the horse farm and, like, not let literally anyone see him and nobody went to visit him? Or, like, I don't, it just seems weird that none of these, there's still people who haven't seen him since he got home, when I thought it was like several years ago that happened. Well, maybe not like several, but like 2, 3. Edward couldn't breathe. Precious boy. That was what she'd always called him when he was little. Precious boy. Lane was her favorite, always had been. And Max she had tolerated because she'd had to. But Miss Aurora had called him, Edward, precious. Are we ever going to meet Max? Is Max dead? Do we know? Because she was old school and the firstborn son thing did matter to her. I prayed for you, she whispered. I prayed for him to bring you home to us, and my miracle has come finally. He wanted to say something strong. He wanted to push her way because it was just too much. And it says push her way instead of away. There's a typo. He wanted Next thing he knew, he had leaned into her and she had wrapped her arms around him. Much later, when everything had changed and he was living a life he couldn't have imagined on any level, he would come to recognize that this moment, with his head in Miss Aurora's hands, and with her heart under his ear, with her familiar voice soothing him and his brother watching from a discreet distance, was when he began to truly heal. For a brief instant, a split second, a single breath, his pilot light flickered on. The spark didn't last long. The flare died when she finally stepped back a little. Okay, so we know he's not going to die. But the ignition did, in fact, occur, and that changed everything. I prayed every night for you. This is how he's going to become religious. Because maybe he doesn't end up with the rich girl. Maybe he ends up with the showed up demanding a job farm girl who's religious and doesn't drink and blah blah blah. This is him because she's talking about God, etc. And the spark is gonna be Jesus. Why does everybody have to be religious? Shut up. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Unless it is specifically a religious book, I hate it when religion is the answer to anything. If you are, and I have a shelf full of these, they're terrible because people gave them to me and I bought some because I was in a weird space. I did the church thing for a while. Don't do it. It sucks. But there's a reason that Christian romance books are terrible. They're fucking awful. But at least in those, when Jesus is the answer to something, I don't mind it because that's the fucking point. You know what you're reading. I hate it when non-religious authors or non-religious books suddenly throw religion in and make it a magic cure-all. It's literally magic. And it's like, no, do better. I mean, I'm not saying the church doesn't treat Jesus like magic because they motherfucking do. That's how they sell it. But, like, I've had people in churches, like, say such ridiculous fucking shit. Like, oh, if you just believe Jesus can do this and this, and it's like things that are scientifically impossible. And I get there are people that delusional, but I'm not one of them. Like, if you ever seen it, this is like Chris Angel is known to be kind of a douchebag, but he did in the early days do some actual good of like debunking some things. He did a piece on psychic surgery that I actually found really fascinating, and I gave him credit for like publicly saying like this is bullshit. Let me show you how it's done because it's nothing but a magic trick. Don't believe people that are asking, for 10 grand I can remove your cancer with psychic surgery. Don't fall for it. So I give him credit for like, because he was offended that people like use his craft, his like trait of magic to rip people off and like, the con artist crap. So I gave him credit for saying something about it. I think he still has like a show in Las Vegas. I don't think he has the TV show anymore, but I think he's still got the Vegas residency going on. Uh, I prayed every night for you, she said, brushing his shoulder. I prayed and I asked for you to be saved. I don't believe in God, Miss Aurora. Neither does your brother, but like I tell him, he loves you anyway. Yes, ma'am, because what else could he say to that? Thank you. She touched his head, his jaw. I know you don't want to see me. He took her hand. No, it's not that. You don't have to explain. The idea that she ugh, the idea that she felt she was somehow a second-class citizen made him feel like he'd been shot in the chest. Well, she was your nanny and is now like your cook, dude. She's a servant, so that's kind of the thing. That's the world you live in case you didn't know. I don't want to see anyone. I'm not who I once was. She tilted his face up. Look at me, boy. He had to force himself to meet her dark stare. Yes, ma'am. You're perfect in God's eyes. Do you understand me? And you're perfect in mine as well, no matter what you look like. Miss Aurora, it's not just my body that's changed. That's in your hands, boy. You can choose to sink or swim based on what happened. Are you going to drown? Pretty stupid now that you're back on dry land. Oh, yeah, because if you just pray hard enough, whatever's wrong with his legs will magically be cured. I hate this shit. If anyone else had said that bullshit to him, he would have rolled his eyes and never thought about the statement again. But he knew her background. He knew more than even Lane knew about what her life had been before she'd started to work at Easterly. Oh, God. She was a survivor. She was inviting him to join the club. So this was why he hadn't wanted to see her, he thought. He hadn't wanted this confrontation, this challenge that was clearly being offered to him. Are we what the hell? You like, is it any wonder I have no idea who the main character in this is? Like, I didn't think we were gonna get any of this with him until like the next book because this one's like Lane centric, so I was expecting the other two to each be centric on one of the other characters, but they're all just like slapdashed around. What if I can't get there? He found himself asking her in a voice that broke. You will. She leaned in and whispered in his ear. You're going to have an angel watching over you. I don't believe in them either. Doesn't matter. Easing back, she stared at him for a long while, but not in a way that suggested she was taking note of how much older or thinner he looked. Are you okay? He asked abruptly. I heard you went to the. I'm perfectly fine. Don't worry about me. I'm sorry. About what? Before he could reply, she cut him off with her more typical strident voice. Don't you don't be sorry for taking care of yourself. I'll always be with you, even when I'm not. She didn't say goodbye. She just brushed his face one more time and then turned away. Is this book going to end with her dying, trying to make everyone cry? And it was funny. The image of her walking over to Lane and the pair of them talking together under the heavy dark green leaves of the magnolia tree was something that was going to also stick, as it turned out, just not for the reasons he thought. Oh, end of chapter. We have one more chapter, then I'm certainly calling it a night because I feel like hell. I'm so sorry to let everybody down, but I really feel awful. And all the sinus stuff is just getting worse and worse. I wish I'd realized before now I was sick. I should have realized when I was like, I've been so like foggy headed today, but I haven't been sleeping. I've been literally staying up till like 9 a.m. and sleeping till like 1 for months now, and no matter what I do, I cannot get flipped back around. Seriously considering getting a bottle of NyQuil just for that reason. I mean, I know it's not the best thing to do, but I have to break it somehow. Alright. Oh. But I also get my worst insomnia in the summer, so it's like not a good time either way, but I need to write it in. At least be awake for part of the day that matters because, the whole finding a job thing. Though I did get a couple good resumes out this week. I'm really hoping. One that I sent out last week, I'm hoping I hear about this week because they'd said on it, I'm grateful that when places do this, they said it would be like a 2 to 3 week response time before I would hear anything. So that zone comes into play this week. So I'm really hoping I hear from that place because I really, 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 really want that job. And for once, I'm actually confident that if I can get an interview, I can talk my way into it because I'm pretty good at that. So I really, really hope that they reach out. And that I don't sound like this when they do. Fuck. I will gargle all the salt water if I have to. Chapter 37. The rain that was not forecasted started just after 5 p.m. As Lizzie folded up the last of the tables under the tent, she smelled the change in the air and looked out to the ivy on the brick walls of the garden. Sure enough, the trefoil leaves were dancing, their faces shining up to the gray sky. It wasn't supposed to rain, she muttered to no one in particular. You know what they say about the weather around here, one of the waiters retorted. Yeah, she knew. Where was Lane, she wondered. She hadn't heard anything from him since she'd seated by the truck, and that had been 6 hours ago. Really? That was what the hell? How did 6 hours go by? Mr. Harris came up to her. You'll tell them that it's all to go into the staging area? Yes, she said. That's where the rentals always go afterwards. And before you ask, yes, the silverware and glassware too. As the man lingered next to her, she was tempted to tell him to grab hold of the table and help her hump it across the event deck, but it was pretty clear he wasn't a hands dirty sort of fellow. What's the matter? She asked, frowning. The police have arrived again. They're trying to be respectful of our event, but they wish to interview me and you. Well, yeah, there's potentially a murderer. Lizzie lowered her voice. Do you want me to take care of things out here? I'm afraid they're not going to let this be. I'll make sure it's done right. The butler cleared his throat, and then, God love him, he gave her a bit of a bow. It would be most appreciated, thank you. I shan't be long. She nodded and watched him go, and then she got back to work. Shirking the table off the deck, she strode across the now cavernous interior and proceeded out into the open air where a sprinkling of that rain dusted her head and shoulders. The staging tent was way off by the opposite side of the house, and Greta's German accent emanated from it as two streams of servers, one filing in with party debris, the other emerging with empty hands, moved with speed. Lizzie waited along with the rest of them, inching her way closer and closer to the drop-off. The larger of the two tents would be taken down in about 20 minutes, and the sweep-up crew was already working on the floor, picking up crumpled napkins, errant forks, and glasses. Rich people were no different than any other herd of animals, capable of leaving a trail of detritus behind them after they abandoned a feeding station. Last table, she said as she once again went under cover. Good. Greta pointed to a stack. It goes there, Ja. Yep. Lizzie jerked the weight up to waist level and slid the length on top of the pile. Lifting a whole table by yourself is very hard. Mr. Harris has to take care of some business, so I'll be manning cleanup. We'll have it all in order. Greta motioned for two young men with 6 crates of glasses apiece to the other corner. Over there, and make sure under cover, Ja. I'm going to check in with the kitchen. We'll be finished out here in an hour. Right on schedule. Always. And Greta was right. At 6 o'clock on the dot, they were finished. The big tent down and the house and gardens cleared out of anything rented. The backyard reset as if it had had its Control-Alt-Delete hit. As usual, the effort had been tremendous. As the staff filed out, most of them were heading downtown to drink off the aches and pains and oh my gods of the day. But not Lizzie. Or her partner. Home. They were both going home, where she would wait for Lane and Greta would get treated to a meal cooked by her husband. As the two of them walked down to the staff parking area together, they didn't say a word. At their cars, they shared a quick hug. Another in the can, Lizzie said as they pulled apart. Now we get ready for the little VE birthday party. Why does everyone call her Little VE? This is the worst nickname or shorthand ever. Why is she not called Vicky or something? What? Or Lizzie, if the middle name is so important. Lizzie or Beth or something. I mean, we have another character called Lizzie, so that's probably why, but go with the first name. What? Oh, or is that, now I'm wondering, is little VE, is that the daughter? Is that Jin's daughter? Because have we been told her name? I don't know if we've been told her name, because then the little would make sense if she was named after the mother or something. She's junior. I don't know. I'm confused by this nickname. Or Jin's wedding reception, Lizzie thought. At least it wasn't going to be Lane's wedding anniversary. I'll see you tomorrow, she said. Sunday? No, Greta laughed. Not a soul will be stirring. Not a martini nor a mouse. Right. Sorry, my brain is fried. See you Monday. You all right to drive home? Yep. After a wave, Lizzie got in her Yaris. Brand name. Pen. Definitely need a new pen. And then joined the lineup of cars and trucks proceeding out of the staff lane. As soon as she took a left on River Road, what had started as sprinkles turned into an actual rain, and the deluge made her think of the race. Shoot, she'd missed it. Reaching for the radio, she turned the thing on and futzed with the dial to find the local station. By the time she found the recap, she was out of Spaghetti Junction and heading over the Ohio. But she didn't follow the reporting, and not just because she didn't follow the sport. Frowning, she leaned into her steering wheel. Dear God. Up ahead, the horizon was filled with tremendous black clouds, the rolling thunderheads looming high in the sky. Worse, there was a green tinge to it all. That's tornado. I know that. That's tornado. And even to her untrained naked eye, the stuff appeared to be rotating. Yeah, the green is the telltale of the tornado. You can smell it, too. She checked over her shoulder. Behind her, there was nothing much going on weather-wise. There was even a stretch of blue sky. Shoving her hand into her purse, she took out her phone and dialed Easterly. When that clipped English voice answered, she said, "Weather's coming. You're going to need to—" "Miss King," the butler said. "Look, you need to batten down the pool area and the pots, but there's no weather, as you call it, due. In fact, the weathermen have made it clear that a spot of rain is all we shall have this evening." I'm looking at it, you... It's hail? Okay, yeah, hail will do a lot of damage. I've seen it firsthand. Hail can fuck up your house and car. As a flash of lightning licked its way across the underside of that cloud front, she thought, well, at least she'd gotten along with the man for almost an hour. Screw the Weather Channel, I'm telling you what I'm looking at right now. There is a storm bigger than downtown Charlemont heading across the river, and Easterly's Hill is the first thing it's going to run into. Crap, had she remembered to shut her windows at her farm? I was unaware of your skills as a meteorologist, Mr. Harris said dryly. Isn't he supposed to be talking to the cops right now? You are a dick, sir. Fine, but then you can explain the following after it goes through. 1. Why the awning by the pool blew off. 2. Why the 4 porch pots on the west side of the terrace have fallen over and need to be replanted. where the lawn furniture ended up because unless you make sure it's in the pool house, it's going to drag through the flower beds. Which brings me to number 4, namely when the ivy, tea roses, and hydrangea will be fixed. Oh, and then you can follow all that up with writing the family a $7,000 check to cover the new plant material that will be required. Tick tock, tick tock. What was the second issue, he said? Tally ho, big guy. Who talks like this? Nobody talks like this. Lizzie ran through the whole protocol, which was the result of her and Greta having worked with Carrie McAdams for years, stormproofing the grounds in the spring and the fall. The thing was, it didn't take an EF5 dropping directly into Easterly's backyard to create a mess. Some of the generic storms were more than capable of doing a lot of damage if they had straight-lined winds. It was one of the things she'd learned fast when she moved to downtown Charlemont. As if on cue, she drove into a blistering wall of rain that hit the windshield so hard it sounded like a team of tap dancers rocking out to the Star-Spangled Banner. Cranking up her wiper, she took her foot off the accelerator because the Yaris was capable of hydroplaning on the highway with even the slightest amount of water under its tiny tires. Yeah, that's very, 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 very dangerous. You got it, she said, because I need to hang up to drive through this. Yes, yes, of course. Oh my god, the man whispered. So you see the storm. Have fun with that, she thought. Better get moving. Indeed, quite. Lizzie hung up and tossed her phone back into her purse. And then it was a case of hunch over the steering wheel, hold on tight, and pray that some idiot show-off in an SUV didn't run her off the road. You shouldn't hunch over the steering wheel because the airbag will break your chest. Things got even worse, fast. And geez, after a day as long as the one she'd put in, the last thing she needed were torrential bands of water that cut her visuals down to 5 feet, along with teeth-rattling thunder and lightning. But the weather seemed determined to parallel what was going on at Easterly, almost as if the drama of the house was affecting even the weather. Okay, that was hyperbole, but still. It took her 500 years to reach the exit, and then another 7 or 8 to get to her driveway. Meanwhile, the storm had turned into Storm S with a big capital S on the end. Lightning crackled and sizzled, seeming to target her car. The thunder roared, and she got pelted with a round of hail you could have hit out of Fenway Park. Sarah, you were right. It's hail. You called it. White-knuckled, frankly pissed, worried about Lane and sore all over when she finally made it home, it was a hot mess of the finger of God. That was the only thing she could think of. One moment she was just about to pull into her spot by her house. The next, a jagged bolt of lightning licked out of the sky and nailed her big, beautiful tree right at the top. Sparks flew like the 4th of July, and she screamed no as she hit the brakes. The Yaris tires were iffy on dry pavement. On wet, muddy dirt road, it was grease pig time. Okay, girl, you need to drive a safer car. And that was how she learned Lane was already at her house, because she plowed right into the back of his Porsche. Okay. Well, oops. I'm sure he has insurance. Hopefully she does too. Lane had been sitting at Lizzie's kitchen table reading BBC financial reports for about 2 hours when the storm hit. So she just left her house unlocked? Because she told him she'd leave it unlocked for him, but that requires her to get home first, and she's not there yet. So did she just leave it unlocked, or did he break in? Ugh, I cannot breathe for shit. We're almost at the end of this chapter, and I am so sorry, but I have to call it an early night because I cannot breathe. And I'm slowly dying. As the first wave of rain and noise and flashing rumbled through the house, he didn't bother to look up from her laptop, even as the old-fashioned glass in the windows rattled and roof beams creaked. The volumes and volumes of data were overwhelming, and he was panicked that he only understood a fraction of it all. Then again, it had been pretty damn naive of him to think he could get a handle on his father's dealings with any kind of word I don't know. Alacrity? Alacrity. I think I've heard it once before, but weird word, and I don't remember what it means. Aside from the crushing numbers of files, he just didn't have the extensive accounting background that was going to be required to sort everything out. See? See, I fucking said it. I said they don't even understand what they have. They need somebody who understands the numbers. Thank God Edward had been prepared for something like this, setting up those shadow accounts and passcodes and emails. Without all that, it would have been impossible to export the information without triggering some kind of internal alert. Maybe that would still happen, though. He didn't know how much time they had before their father tweaked to the fact that there had been a major leak. To who? And how much noise can their father make about it if the information that's been taken would reveal the incredibly illegal things that he's done? I'm guessing he's not going to make too much noise about it. Taking a break, he sat back and rubbed his eyes. That was when the second wave of storms hit, and whether it was the forced TO thanks to his burning retinas, TO, it literally just says TO, or the fact that his T cell really was kicking it up huge, that this T cell, or I'm guessing it's a tornado term, was really kicking it up huge, he became very aware that Lizzie's home was suddenly under siege. Excuse me. Getting to his feet, he went around and shut all the open windows, upstairs and down. As he jogged from room to room, lightning strobed in crazy bursts, casting fast, hard shadows over Lizzie's floorboards, her furniture, her piano. With the sky nearly as dark as midnight and all the jagged licks of nailing and all the jagged licks nailing the farmland, he felt as though he were in a war zone. Alacrity is a noun that means cheerful, brisk, and eager willingness to do something. It pairs a high level of physical quickness or swiftness with a positive, enthusiastic attitude. Nice. That sounds like a good word. And thank you. Uh, He'd forgotten how rough these eastward moving spring storms could be. The collisions of hot and cold fronts given free rein over the miles and miles of flat, tilled lands in the Midwest. Back on the first floor, he glanced out at the front porch and cursed. The wicker rockers and side tables were milling around, animated in nervous agitation by the countervailing gusts of wind. When he went to open the door, the heavy weight blew it in and hit at the slightest turn of the knob, and he had to drag things shut behind himself as he stepped out. Grabbing hold of anything he came in contact with, he moved Lizzie's stuff around the corner of the porch out of the worst of the gale. He was coming back around to tangle the final lounge chair when he saw headlights turn off the main road. It had to be her, and he was glad she was home. He'd meant to call, text, send up smoke signals or a homing pigeon, but his head had been locked in a. Everything happened in a weird combination of slow-mo and speed of sound. The blast of lightning that came out of the sky right above the house, the explosion of noise and the bomb burst of illumination, that tree limb that was the size of an I-beam cracking free of the trunk and falling to the ground, right as Lizzie pulled up under it. The crunching sound of metal getting crushed stopped his heart in his chest. "Lizzie!" he screamed as he went airborne off the porch. Rain pelted him in the face, and the wind was like a pack of dogs, tearing at his clothes as he bolted across the puddled ground at a dead run. Death comes in threes. "No," he hollered into the storm. "No!" There's 6 O's. We're doing the Darth Vader no. The Yaris had crumpled under the weight, and the roof mashed down its flank. Oh, is she dead? The hood caved in.
His own life flashed through his mind as he skidded to a halt in his bare feet. Ew, why are you in bare feet in somebody else's house? Ew! Branches with bright green new spring leaves were everywhere, compromising his vision as much as the rain and the wind. And still lightning flashed and thunder carried on as if nothing important had happened. Lizzie! He dove into the wet mess of leaves, clawing to get through, get around, get over. Even with all the wind, he could smell the gasoline, the oil, and hear the hiss of an engine that had been mortally wounded. Maybe all the damp would stop a fire from igniting? It's possible. Lane changed tactics and began to climb up and over until he worked his way around and onto the front of the car. Finally, he felt something slick and wet under his hands, and he knocked on it, wanting her to know he was there. Lizzie, I'm going to get you out. With frantic jerks, he tore through the leaves and branches until he found the spidered, bowed-out glass of the front windshield. The panel was still intact, but that didn't last long. Squeezing up a fist, he punched through and all but shoved himself into the opening. I'm sorry, you did not just punch your way through a windshield. If it's still intact, then the lamination's still holding, and you cannot just punch your way through that and climb inside the car. This is... Oh, I'm sorry, my voice is really going. Lizzie was laying sideways, her head in the passenger seat, her arms flopping around as if she were trying to orient herself. Both airbags had blown, and the chalky dryness in the air was at odds with the storm's tremendous humidity. Do not breathe that shit in. Lizzie. At least she was moving. You know, they say that dust is just to keep the airbag from, like, peeling your face off. If the roof is collapsed, the windshield's likely compromised. Yeah. It sounds like her car is, like, just completely wrecked. Shit. There was no way he could get any of the doors open. He was going to have to pull her out. Reaching forward, he touched her face. Lizzie. Her eyes were fluttering. There was blood on her forehead. Lane? I got you. I'm going to get you out. Are you hurt? Your neck? Your back? Well, she's bleeding from her head. And in this weather, there's no getting an ambulance out here. He's gonna, like, take care of her and then they're gonna have sex. That's gonna be the next chapter. She's gonna be magically fine. I'm sorry I hit your car. He closed his eyes for a split second and said a prayer. Then he snapped back into action. I'm going to have to drag you out. Fighting his way further into the interior, he somehow managed to reach the seatbelt release, and then he grabbed a hold of her upper arms and stopped. Lizzie, listen to me. Are you sure you're not hurt? Can you move your arms and legs? When she didn't reply, he felt a fresh surge of alarm. Lizzie! Lizzie! And that's where it ends. That's the end of the chapter. That's the end of tonight. I'm sorry, but I feel like hell. I can't breathe. My face is killing me. My head's killing me. My ear keeps popping painfully, and I cannot go on for another hour. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for letting everybody down. I'm sorry I'm sick. I'm sorry I didn't realize how sick I was before starting, because I really did. I should have realized. I was, like, showing signs all day, but I'm so used to feeling like crap these days because I'm not sleeping and other things. I didn't realize that I was feeling, like, extra crappy, and I should have realized that I didn't, and I'm sorry. So please yell at me in the comments for being inadequate. But we'll be back next week. Hopefully I will not feel like crap. Or if I am, I'll be prepared for it. See, it's not even fully dark out now. No, it's not even fully dark out right now. This is crazy. This is what the weather does. Thank you, Sarah. You're a sweetheart. Thank you so much. That helps. But sorry for the short week, everyone, but please take care of yourself. Thank you all for being here. I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. It was fun. I hope you had lots of barbecue and fireworks and did lots of cool stuff. But I will see everyone next week in much better shape, I promise. And we will continue on with our wonderful tale. Is Lizzie going to die? I don't think she's going to die. I think he's going to take care of her and they're going to have a lot of sex. That's what I think is about to happen. Other than that, I don't know, because things have stopped making sense, so I don't know. But I will see everyone next week. I've been Insane Lane. This has been Tea and Rose's Book Club. Take care of yourself, and as always, love on a fur baby. Until next week, bye.